Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's time for the Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoiler cast. Today we're going to tell you how we felt about the Black Panther sequel, and with me this afternoon, I've got Kareem Roberts. Hello, Kareem. It's good to see you. Oh, hold on. Nobody can hear you for some reason. No, it's not your fault. I can hear you, but I've got my audio set up wrong. Hang on. Okay, say something.
Wakanda Forever.
There we go. Now we're good. And I've also got, as always, Connor Nielsen.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
How's it going, folks? We're actually on time for this review. This movie came out ostensibly Friday, although I still don't understand why we call that the opening day for movies, because, like, you look up showtimes, and I could have gone at, like, 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon. But okay, it opened Friday.
I went Thursday night.
Yeah, we did a Weird Al show a Friday night because that movie was way more important than this movie. So we had to do that on the opening night for Wakanda Forever. But now we're finally dealing with this much less culturally important film, Wakanda Forever. And obviously, we were joking about this before we started recording. It's the sequel. What else do you need to know? But obviously, sadly, without Chadwick Boseman. And the big question was, what is this going to be like without him? And is it going to win those of us over that kind of wished they had just recast on the idea of the character dies along with the actor? And obviously, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Neymar of it all. Thanks a lot for watching live right now, if you're doing that, and thanks for checking us out after the fact. If you would like to make sure that your opinion or question is talked about, heard on the show today, you can leave a super chat in any dollar amount. We'll guarantee that. You can also just leave regular comments, and I'll check those periodically, and we'll try to let you guys help us guide the discourse a little bit here and there. Connor, would you kindly give us a brief synopsis of Wakanda Forever?
Yes. So, in the aftermath of the blip and Avengers Endgame, King T'Challa is dead from an undisclosed illness, and in her efforts to save him, Shuri has failed to recreate the heart-shaped herb that gives the Black Panther his power that Killmonger burned all of. And 1 year after this tragic passing, we have attacks on Wakandan outposts as the world is trying to steal its vibranium resources. One such attempt to find vibranium leads the United States to the bottom of the ocean, where there is Prince Neymar and the underwater kingdom of Talokan, I believe it's called. And
good job. First try.
Awesome. There we go. And as a result of this, it ain't Atlantis.
I was just going to keep saying Atlantis and hope nobody noticed. I was like, it starts with a T. It's a Tutankhamun. That's not right.
Yeah, Tutankhamun. There we go. But what we end up getting is Prince Neymar offers an alliance with Wakanda, as they both have they both have vibranium in their country's or nation's kingdom's history, and they are both seeking their own independence as the world stage grows, and as they both maybe grapple with the idea of their presence on the world stage. And that's really what we got going on in Wakanda Forever. That's more or less the plot. There's, of course, a lot more characters, a lot more subplots, and more emotional depth that I could be explaining here. But for the sake of the non-spoiler part of this, I will probably not touch on that. Kareem, what did you think of? How did you feel about Wakanda Forever? Is that how I'm supposed to do it?
No, that's fine. Yeah, feel free, because that's what I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to make Kareem go first. So thanks, Connor. Kareem, you had no idea that was going to happen. You totally lost that whole bet, because Kareem was like, "Oh, Connor should go first," and then Connor just did the synopsis, and he was like, "Hey, Kareem, you have to go first."
It felt so natural to pass the baton after saying the.
I was going to take a nap. I was going to do a lot of things. But
joke is on you, sir. So we're gonna, as we usually do on this show, do non-spoilers first. Give us your kind of general thoughts leaving the theater, best thing, worst thing, and we'll each do that, and then we'll get into spoiler territory after that. We can talk about anything and everything under the sun regarding the movie. Did either of you guys have a chance to see it a second time, or are we all one-time boat? Yeah, same here.
Yeah. I wanted to see it the second time, but I didn't get the chance.
I saw it last night, so there was no hope to go again. Kareem, how did you feel about Wakanda Forever?
General thoughts, I thought this was one of the best case scenarios that they could have done given the path they chose under these like tragic circumstances. Of course, I mean Chadwick Boseman's death. If you're going to not recast T'Challa and you're choosing to go down this path, I thought, it's not the weakest scenario that you could have given this kind of direction they're going for. So I was surprised on that. Best thing in the movie, I would say, is Neymar. Not just his performance, but also the mythology around Talokan and I want to say the Atlanteans, but they're not. They're not Neymor's people, and just like their culture and things like that, and the way they're juxtaposed with Wakanda, I thought was really cool. We know, like, a lot of comic book fans know the rivalry between those two characters, T'Challa and Namor. And I thought this was a really cool way to take it, not just putting that indigenous culture into the character, but also making him more charismatic and making him less of a pompous jerk. You could definitely see why these people will die for him, why they will listen to him and treat him like a god. The worst thing I would say is the pacing felt off, and we'll get into that with spoilers. But I think a large part of that is the root of that would be the first film. I felt was such a cultural like touchstone, and just like it was so biting, but in like just a way that challenged the viewers. And this one was not. It didn't have the teeth, the same teeth as the first one. And also, the first one was a standard superhero movie, and this one's a standard superhero movie. And because it has less teeth, I saw the problems more, if that makes sense. But again, I think that links up with the pacing. So.
Thanks, Kareem. Really wonderful, concise thoughts, and we'll talk about all of that stuff and see how much Connor and I agree and disagree. Connor, how did you feel about Wakanda Forever? Oh, what's your sign flip, Kareem?
Oh, I don't have a green thing.
Are you feeling it? This is for Kareem.
I got a bunch of Black Panther comics, but I would say green. Yeah, I liked it. I think this is definitely the best of Phase 4, which in my opinion has been easily the worst phase of these Marvel movies. But it's not saying it's not saying so much, but I think this is easily the best movie of Phase 4.
Well, I agree with your second statement. That is the worst phase. Go ahead, Connor.
All right. So I have complicated feelings on this film. I'll say I don't quite know what to make of a decent amount here, but I am flipping green. I just went and got some coffee, and Starbucks has these green stoppers, and I made sure to grab one because I knew I wouldn't have. This is the closest thing to a sign I've ever had. It's got a little stick and everything. So I am going to say I'm feeling it. I would ultimately recommend this. I think of Marvel's output this year, including their films, this is probably their best movie of the year, and best project of the year. Although I will say I think Doctor Strange is more entertaining. They're obviously going for a very different thing than Doctor Strange was going for. I think as a film, this is better. But I'm also a sucker for Raimi, so I'm a little torn. I think as far as Phase 4 goes, Eternals is still my favorite movie. I know I'm kind of on an island where I really like that movie. It came to me at kind of like the perfect time and all that stuff. But so I think the best thing about this movie is Shuri. I think I actually had not seen the original Black Panther since the theaters, and the day before going to see this, I went and revisited the first Black Panther movie. And pretty controversial opinion. That movie, good movie, right? I like Black Panther, right? And what I liked about that is that you feel Coogler speaking through the Killmonger character. That movie really comes to life in the second act when Killmonger sort of takes over that movie, and that's where I feel like that movie goes from being an entertaining Marvel movie to something more than that. And I think that with this movie, he's tied a lot of his voice to Shuri. And what I like so much about where we're starting this movie. I like how we've sort of taken the sort of ideas of tradition versus, moving stuff forward, and we've tied that to the Shuri character who's learning to embrace tradition through the grieving process of grieving her brother, who took on this traditional mantle of Black Panther. So I like a lot about what Coogler is able to mine through speaking through that character. I think the worst thing about this movie, and in my eyes, it is a nearly fatal flaw. And that is the flaw that has been, I think, infecting so many Marvel projects lately. I don't think I've had the chance to really talk about this in a spoiler cast, because I didn't talk about Shang-Chi with you, and I don't think I talked about Black Panther. Or sorry, Black Widow. My bad. Black Widow.
We didn't do one for Black Widow.
Oh, that's right.
Or did
yeah.
we? I forget. I don't think we did.
Your girls had just been born, right? Or they were on their way. So anyways.
I had to skip the couple of things that were actually coming out during that period.
Right. This is a problem that those have, that this also has, where this is a singular protagonist story, but they're cramming it awkwardly, and it has to awkwardly share place with an ensemble cast plot. And I think that in a way that kind of angered me, I had to watch Marvel sideline Ryan Coogler, and that was maddening. And that's the way I'm reading the movie. But I am seeing Ryan Coogler speaking through Shuri, and the movie saying, no, we need to promote a crappy Disney Plus show. We need to, bring in the supporting cast because we have like Martin Freeman and Julia Louis-Dreyfus under contract. We need to do all this other stuff that, quite frankly, is nowhere near as compelling or interesting. It bloats the runtime. We need to take all these other supporting casts and do all this stuff with them that does not feel, I don't think, earned. Because Marvel doesn't make singular protagonist movies anymore. They make ensemble movies. All of their work are ensemble movies. Black Widow could not be a singular protagonist story. It had to be an ensemble thing. Shang-Chi had to be an ensemble thing. And I think, honestly, when you get to the third act and the places that we need to take Shuri emotionally, it was frustrating because I could see the version of this movie where she's your lead character and she has to basically just be a piece of a larger whole that I felt took a lot of the wind out of this movie's sails early on. But overall, I do like this movie. I think Ryan Coogler's voice, just in a cinematic language way, is much more evident here than it was in the first movie. I don't think this movie is as good as the first movie, but there are things about it I like more. But I have some conflicting feelings. But overall, flipping green on this one.
Yeah, Connor, I line up with you a lot, except I'm maybe going to be even a little bit harsher with some of it. First of all, I don't think this is the best movie in Phase 4. I do think it's Doctor Strange, and by a wide margin, and I would even put Eternals above this movie, I think, if we have to rank them. But yeah, I'm going to go even farther with the thing that you just said, Connor, that it's too much of an ensemble piece. Let me say this real quick too. Walking in, I was expecting it to be full-on ensemble and wanting to embrace that if that's what they wanted to make, and really flesh out and explore this cast of characters that all have to come together to replace as best as they possibly can the lead protagonist. And there was talk for a long time, even before Boseman died, that they wanted to make an all-female cast Wakanda movie, and that's what I assumed that would be. It would be like an Avengers movie, but with the ladies of Wakanda. And you make this too much of an ensemble piece. You can't even tell who your lead protagonist is going to be by the time it turns into a singular protagonist movie. There's kind of tonal whiplash, and nobody gets enough to do even within all of that. Like, I don't feel like I learned about or appreciated anybody more than I did before, with the possible exception of Shuri. And when you get characters like Okoye, I thought she was even like made almost more two-dimensional than she was before. She felt flat to me. Like, her characterization now is she threatens people. That's what she do. That's what she does. She shows up in a scene and she tells you that she's gonna murder your entire family. That's Okoye now. I thought this movie was, Connor, not just plagued with a lot of the same things that the Disney Plus shows have been. I thought it felt like a Disney Plus show, the way it's plotted and the way it's paced. The production values are better than that, obviously. There's a lot of stuff with the setup of it that's more interesting than any of those things have been. And I guess I'll say the ending of it, the way it all comes together at the end is certainly, I guess I have to say it sticks the landing better than any of those shows have. That's also not saying a whole lot. Kareem took my best thing, so I'm gonna say best thing, worst thing is setup and worst thing is follow through.
Wow.
Even though I'm saying that it sticks the landing better than some of the Disney Plus shows do, I really like, and this will be surprising to some people, I like the political place that this movie starts with, and in continuing on ideas and themes and story points from the first movie. But I needed all that explored a lot more, because that's what I ultimately was kind of there for once it was all established. The setup with this movie is Wakanda is part of the world stage now, and then the blip happens, so things are really weird. Like, the blip happens, and then T'Challa dies from an unknown or an unspoken illness, because it has to reflect real life, and I don't like it. Like, they did not really win me over on that like I was hoping they would. I still don't like that real life is dictating what happened with the art with this. I think not recasting T'Challa and having him die in the way he does is terrible narratively, going along with what we had before in the first movie and into the others. So I'm going to say this real quick. So T'Challa is thought to be dead in the first Black Panther, and
you're taking my thing, Cap. I was gonna.
Oh, I took your thing. Okay, I can talk about this later if you want.
No. Go ahead.
T'Challa dies, everybody thinks, and then the ladies are all standing around going, well, this sucks. We lose T'Chaka, and then we lose T'Challa, and then T'Challa's miraculously alive because thank goodness for the vegetarians. And then you get to the blip, and he dies, and now they're all mourning their king, all of the Wakandans that are still alive, and he's one of the only ones that dies. So, like, most of Wakanda seems like it's okay, but we lost T'Challa, right? And then he comes back from that, and then he dies again. That's terrible narratively. Like, if you wrote that without the real world thing, everybody would be booing you. It's stupid. But they felt like they're stuck with it and they have to do that. So this is too harsh, but in a way it almost watches like they lost the rights to their main character and they had to make do, like, working around it. And it's frustrating because I walked in fully open to their changing my mind on that and that being the way to go now. And I didn't buy into it the way I wanted to. But more of the point is I really like the opening volley, the opening concept of T'Challa was hoping that opening up to the world stage and becoming part of the the world nations, he could, like, give people a better perspective and be kind of a beacon to the world. And what happened instead is everybody's after vibranium now. They know there's probably more out there. They're going to go try to find it. And T'Challa didn't actually accomplish anything like he was hoping he would. The problem is, and then that being what gets Neymar in and everything is great, but the problem is the character himself gets kind of thrown under the bus to me. Like, we're not exploring any of the good things that have happened because T'Challa brought Wakanda out to the world stage, which he thought was the correct thing to do, the responsible thing to do at the end of Black Panther. So it feels like a really good tribute to the actor who played him, but not a very good tribute at all to the character to me. Like, we explore, and of course there were going to be consequences, but we explore all of the consequences. But none of the good stuff that came from it. So ultimately, he doesn't look like he was all that great of a king. It was kind of a bad idea, it turns out. And it probably wasn't. There were probably actually good things that happened because of that. But it's been 6 years and we didn't discuss any of what happened apart from people are after vibranium now. So, like, I needed more of the politics. I needed more discussion about how that affected the rest of the world. I'm going to go for a really lukewarm sign flip because I haven't talked about some of the other things I actually did like in this movie. The female Black Panther costume is badass, by the way. I love it, like, a lot. I will give it a lukewarm sign flip, but I was, like green. Like, I didn't dislike it enough to flip red. I want to see it again. I might appreciate it better on a second viewing. But you guys, I was underwhelmed. I was not super impressed. And I've got issues with the ending and, like, there's stuff, but
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kareem.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you guys are articulating my pacing problem way better because a lot of that has to do with, you know, how jumbled everything is and just the direction they were going towards and how, like, thematically, like, incompatible it was with the first one. But yeah, I was just gonna mention that. But it also, I think the reason I'm not so harsh on it is because I haven't been, like, in a Marvel, like, I haven't seen any of the Marvel stuff as much as I have with the past couple phases. And also my expectations were, like, to the floor, like, going into this, just because I ultimately agree with the direction of not recasting, but I have no argument for, okay, you should have recasted. Like, I have no defense for that. I can see why, and we'll talk about it. But the way they killed T'Challa, I'm vehemently against, and I think that like adds to the problems with this movie, because I think it's worse than what Cap mentioned as far as his death.
Yeah, well, would you get into that a little bit then? Like, why do you not like him dying of some unspoken sort of cancerous sort of disease? Because my main problem with it is just we kept teasing you with he's dead, and then we actually kill him in the most take it apart from the real world, take it apart from what happened with Boseman, and obviously that's sad, and I get that people are finding it like a fitting tribute or whatever, but the problem with it is just on paper it reads really contrived. It's like he needs to die for some reason, so he's dead now. That's how it reads narratively if you forget about the real world stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's worse in universe because just the first Black Panther, the trial with M'Baku, he almost kills him, he stabs him. Okay, you get that scare. Then Killmonger.
I didn't even mention that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Killmonger throws him off a waterfall. Then he's dead. And then Thanos comes and he disappears for 5 years. We never explore Wakanda for 5 years, by the way, in those 5 years. And then he's dead. And then you don't even get, like, you start off the movie and say, okay, he's dead from a random disease. But in universe, they speak about the herb. And a lot of Black Panther fans know this, like, regardless of the fact that Wakanda is the most advanced civilization in the Marvel universe, and like, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but you know, they would laugh at diseases, they would laugh at all these kind of things. As far as that, like the Wakanda, what do you call it? the heart-shaped herb, it would, to me, it would just not even, he wouldn't get affected by diseases and things like that. So I just disagree with just that choice in general. Aside from that, you have Iron Man 2, where Tony Stark can
I was gonna go there too. I was thinking Iron Man 2 this whole movie.
solve his disease in 2 hours. Shuri's supposed to be 10 times smarter than these people, by the way. Bruce Banner can solve his Hulk thing across these movies, but T'Challa, and like, I like to just highlight, I mean this in no disrespect. Like, to me, I just disagree with the direction of just killing him from just an unnamed disease. I would almost like it more, although it may sound harsh, that the disease came from the herb. Like, it just doesn't make sense in universe, in mythology.
Or he could have gotten it, like, even if, and you wouldn't like this based on what you just said, but even if we could go with the basic idea that the heart-shaped herb, there are still some diseases you could get that get around that, at least have him get it outside of Wakanda. Because, like at least say he went somewhere and there was some weird disease that he got that even the heart-shaped herb can't cure, because part of my problem with it is a lot of people get cancer because of things that we in a more like Western-led civilization are putting in our bodies that we weren't eating, like, hundreds of years ago. And that's not the only thing that causes cancer, obviously. But the only person we've ever heard of in Wakanda that just suddenly gets like a random disease is T'Challa, is the king of Wakanda. Like what causes that?
Yeah.
I would just think that would be a lot. That kind of thing would be way rarer in Wakanda than much of the rest of the world. And also, why does he need more of the heart-shaped herb? It's already in him. Like, it's what gives him his powers. Why? Like, so now he needs more of it?
And obviously, this is what Cap says, which is like, you're letting reality dictate your fiction. And I get that this was supposed to be a big tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and obviously he's a hero for just continuing on knowing he had this, and just being the great guy that he was. But it's almost like, and Connor, I know this is a personal favorite of yours, but it's almost like not mentioning the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises, where it's like the madman who destroyed the city. Like, we're not gonna mention anything about him because Heath Ledger passed away. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense in universe.
No, and that's why I say it's a tribute to the man who played him, but it's not a tribute to the character well enough. Like, his characterization and what he believed in is just not discussed in the movie. And when you look at the direction Shuri's arc goes, and we can start getting into spoilers now. So if you've not seen the movie, everybody, and you don't want to know things, we're going to start talking about more of what actually happens in the movie now. When you get to Shuri's revenge motive later into the movie, I needed that, discussed in contrast to the way T'Challa looked at the world. And especially when you look at the fact that he had that same motive in Civil War and got over it. Like, it's really weird to me that that in this movie, after he dies, it's nothing about his principles and ideals. And, like, I look at Black Panther as like the Superman of this universe, at least maybe the secondary one next to Captain America, right? Like, they both have that kind of value system. And in some ways I felt like Black Panther, it felt more like a Superman type character to me, at least by his own movie. And it's weird that you get to the end and I think that the moment where she gets over her revenge motive is real easy and real kind of typical, where she just gets a flash to her mother who she didn't even see in the Ancestral Plane. I don't really know what's going on there. And obviously you don't want to CG Boseman. Like, there's no way to do that, but it also needed to be that character in some way. Like he can't physically speak to her, but you get flashbacks at the very, very end where she's remembering tender moments with him. But that character's presence is not felt through the movie, and it needs to be. And that's the point I'm making.
It kind of feels like the theatrical cut of Superman 2, where it's his mom talking.
I had exactly the same thing. I was like, well, this actor's not available, so we've got to go to the female. Yeah.
To throw my hat in the ring, I actually, I hear all of your guys' complaints, and I understand them. just on a personal level of me watching it, I did not have the same. I was able to give the movie that conceit, and that's what it is. Like, and I understand the in-universe like grapplings of like which like, and I actually didn't even think about your guys' point, and I get that. Like narratively, it's weird that like he's dead, then he's not dead, then he's dead, then he's not dead, then he's dead. Like, oh, I guess he's dead this time.
And he's like for 3 months, like.
Yeah, exactly.
The movie,
so, like,
Connor, does not acknowledge the fact that this guy should have had in the same kind of sprawling ongoing arc that Iron Man and Captain America had, and was robbed from it because the actor died. And there needs to be acknowledgement of that in the movie, and there's not.
Yeah, and I also like didn't even think of, but I can absolutely see where you're coming from, and I can't not think about it when you're talking about how we don't explore any of the good that came from T'Challa's reign as king. We're only exploring the consequences. Like here's what I'll say. I did not mind that we didn't specify it, the illness. I know that we're letting reality affect the art. Just on a personal preference level, I like it when like the reality influences art to that degree. To like I'm willing to accept that, and I get why others don't, and I hear your guys' reasonings. But I guess what I'll say is when it comes to the unspecified illness of it, of the explanation, I like it because what I like about the ambiguity that the movie lends there is that we're not going to have people on Wiki going, okay, so the heart-shaped herb, its weaknesses are this specific kind of cancer or this specific kind of illness, and like all of a sudden we're getting into like the statistics of it. And I'm glad that it is just sort of this unspecified illness. It got rid of him, and then we have the tribute off the top, and then the rest of the movie did not feel like the funeral that I know you were worried it was going to be, Cap. You've talked about that on the Captain Logan show before.
Yeah.
And I like that, like, we're able to do the tribute, kind of get it out of the way, do a time jump for 1 year, and then get into the movie that in a lot of ways I could kind of see like, okay, I'm sort of in my head moving stuff around going, okay, so if T'Challa's still around, Riri Williams is probably Shuri, and we did this, and but like in a lot of ways though, I thought that it was shifted around in a very natural way, and I think that the way in which they handle the loss of Chadwick Boseman and still are more or less, I think, doing what they would have done with the plot that they would have done with him, they did that in as organic of a way as I possibly could have expected. So I want to give them props. This is an unenviable task. Obviously, there's a lot that could have gone wrong. I think, like, I don't want to say this is a hard task, so I'm going to give them a pass. I think there are things that are problems here that are only problems because of the situation they were given, but they are still problems. I don't want to just wave them away by saying, oh, we're all sad. No, I think there are issues here, but I think that there are things about the conceit I was able to give the movie, and I think in a lot of the setup here that you guys have problems with, especially like in universe, I can see where you guys are coming from. I just, while I'm watching it, did not have the same feelings towards them.
Well, and again, I like the setup of Wakanda is refusing to give out vibranium, so what does the rest of the world do? But I feel like the natural thing to explore there is whether or not the rest of the world is as enlightened as Wakanda and was ready for them to take the lead. And the movie doesn't talk about that enough. Like Connor, I'm not with you on, and you may be right, I don't know. At some point, I'm sure we'll get behind the scenes features and we'll know all this stuff. But I was not as convinced that a lot of what's here is what would have been here anyway. And the biggest thing I kept asking the screen was, what were T'Challa's policies versus the policies of Wakanda right now? Again, it's been around. He was. I almost said elected. He was chosen as king, and then 6 years went by, even though he wasn't there for most of them. The end of Black Panther, the first movie, led me to believe that he wasn't going to actually be all that stingy with vibranium. Now, maybe he was. I don't know, but I wanted to know that, because it really felt like the Queen maybe going against him now that he's not there anymore and going, I don't actually like that we're this involved with the rest of the world now. So, you know, we've got embassies in places and stuff, but beyond that, we're not really going to intermingle very much, and we're not going to give anybody our technology and stuff. And I'm not saying whether or not T'Challa should have done that, but I wanted to know, and I felt like it would have been really easy for the movie to tell me that, and it should have. And with a 2-hour and 40-minute runtime where I was constantly feeling like, here are little subplots that this movie does not need, or scenes that dragged on too long, you could have fleshed out a lot of the politics and the social stuff, and even some character motivations.
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle of you guys because I was really just bothered by, and I was afraid they were going to do this. The reason how he died, or why he died. But I agree with Connor in that it's as organic as it could be given their choice. And ultimately, I was on the fence, but I do agree with their choice. Both of you guys mentioned Superman. I think the way Christopher Reeves portrayed Superman and the way that's like indelibly in people's minds, I think you can argue that with just these few movies, Chadwick Boseman did that with this character. And just on a cultural standpoint, he impacted, like the loss is so just universally felt that I could see why they went this way and just not recasting and just, you know, picking up the baton. But I do disagree with the death, the way they did the death, because I think it just organically it just doesn't work, and it's just. It makes all those problems just glaring, like, wow, this dude was just like king for 6 months and then died.
But I also think even the way they handled it could have been more effective. Like, even the choice they made, I think they could have been more effective about it. One thing that never bothered me with the first movie, that is suddenly bothering me now, a thing that Austin and I have talked about over and over again, because I like that first movie a lot more than he does, and he's got all these issues with it where I have never understood totally where he's coming from, and we argue about it a lot because it's fun. And Austin likes to complain about how and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Austin, if I'm not remembering your argument right. But what I think he's always said is the technology for particularly the costume is way too advanced to the point where he doesn't understand why you even need the heart-shaped herb in the first place. It's like, why do you need like super strength and agility and all of that when the suit does so much for you already? And that never bothered me. But it's awful in this movie because Shuri has created everything the heart-shaped herb does with other suits. She says real early on, like, these suits give you super strength, but we don't have a Black Panther to protect us. And I'm like, but you could make a whole army of people that are way more powerful than Black Panther, even in his suit, with the heart-shaped herb thing in the first place. So why does it really matter? And then that's not even that big of a deal because it could just be symbolic, right? But then the problem is it plays too much into the story because with the first movie, I get why it's gotta be T'Challa at the end facing down against Killmonger and ultimately taking his kingdom back. That has as much to do with who belongs in the throne as it does with arbitrarily this superpower has these particular power levels and now it becomes like a video game, right? This movie, it's absolutely a video game. You get to the end of the film and Shuri figures out the heart-shaped herb and now she is gonna be Black Panther. And because she's got this revenge motive, she's going to take the fight, I think, kind of stupidly, but of course she's all, hyped up on emotion. And the movie kind of knows it's a bad idea, but she, gets too close to winning anyway. So it really does watch to me like, okay, but at the end of the day, she wins because we need a protector named Black Panther that has this costume and put the heart-shaped herb in them, even though you have suits that do all that stuff already. And it gets kind of silly at that point to me.
Yeah, I don't I see where that comes from. Should I remind or say, I don't know how many people heard this. I had a horrible, terrible fan theory going into this. The hierarchy of Panther in the MCU was about to change, and
Oh yes,
everyone was going.
Everyone would be Black Panther at the end. It would be like the end of
You had the same thing. I thought that
Love and
they
Thunder.
were gonna do.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do the Love and Thunder thing where everybody's Black Panther.
I didn't see that. See, I didn't see that movie.
Oh, okay.
Now you guys just spoiled that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I wasn't interested after Thor Ragnarok, anyways.
Okay.
You'll be happier if you ever watch it that you were primed with that information.
So I was a little worried we were going in that direction. Instead, we get 3 Iron Mans. That
with
being
really
said,
dorky looking suits, may I add?
Yeah,
Just to go
look,
to a superficial place, they all look really stupid. I'm sorry, they do.
Okoye was right. Hashtag Okoye was right. Those things were ugly.
Yeah, she's like, they look terrible. And then she's got to be called like the whatever angel.
Midnight
Angel. Yeah, it's bad when she looks almost directly in the camera and is like, Midnight Angel, and I'm totally with her. We're like, yeah, that's that like stupid MCU self-aware thing where we can't play the comic book stuff straight and we've got to make fun of it. In this case, it is really dumb, and I don't know if that comes from comics anywhere or not, but
yeah, it looks exactly like that.
Well, it probably looks better, but was it called Midnight Angel?
I don't know. I think that's from Coates' run.
Is it?
If I'm not mistaken.
I will say.
I don't mean to be mean to Coates, but I think those look really bad on camera.
I will say, I think that in large part, I liked how sober and seriously this took a lot of the comic booky stuff.
Particularly with Neymar, man. Like, that stuff's right off the page. This is what. Sorry, this needs to be the Bible for them moving forward. This is exhibit A for, the dude's got wings on his ankles. We don't have to question it.
Yeah.
You know, and he can zip around, he flies around, and that was the coolest action in the movie. And they got Imperious Rex in there, and it was kind of crazy to me that they had so much reverence for Namor, who's a character that a lot of people don't like, including
Namor's
me,
awesome.
usually.
I love Namor.
Yeah, and my son Jason loves Namor, which is funny because Jason was underwhelmed by Namor, and I was surprised by that. But I think it was maybe he just didn't like. Maybe he just didn't like Namor in the talking scenes because he said the only scenes that really worked for him were the action, so he must have liked that stuff. But maybe it was just that like they made him Spanish and gave him that accent. I'm not sure what Jason's deal was with Namor, but
he was really difficult to understand at that point. So I was like, what?
I had that with 2 or 3 characters in the movie too. I had that with Riri, but I think that was just the actress. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, there's a part where she's like yelling and I cannot understand what she's saying. I'm like, is the sound like? I'm like she's yelling. I should understand what she is saying, right? But I also think I saw this article. I meant to read it before doing the spoiler cast because I had it on the mind. But there's an article going around that's talking about how films have never been more difficult to understand from a sound design perspective, and there's nothing we can really do about it. I'm like, oh, that's a provocative title. I should read that, and then I didn't read it. And then I watched this, and I'm like, I cannot understand what this lady is yelling, and she's yelling. What's going on? So, anyways, that's kind of a moot point now because I didn't read it. But
I watch a lot of movies at home, especially for review with subtitles. And in that moment you're talking about, Connor, I literally looked toward the bottom of the screens looking for the screen for subtitles. There were no subtitles.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. I was like in a post-pandemic world. I watch most of the movies at home, and I was like, "What? Let me just put on these captions." I'm like, "Oh yeah."
Well, and in my and Kareem's defense, about 15% of the movie is already captioned because people are speaking in different languages.
That's right.
And I think that got a little excessive, personally. That's maybe just a taste thing. I've gotten more sensitive to it after Discovery with Klingons because I got so tired of just watching people speak in Klingon. I used to want to learn to be fluent in Klingon. Not anymore. Like I don't have that now. But there were places where I was like, I mean, I guess it's more. It's more authentic because not all these characters would even know English, but there are places where they did and they still spoke that way, and I was just like, I don't know. There's too many minutes in a row having to read subtitles, but
hey, And honestly, like I like that myself, and that's just like obviously a taste thing.
Yeah.
Like because I've been watching a lot.
I hesitated even making that point because I'm on the fence about it. I think I'm more sensitive to it now because of the Discovery thing, where it's just boring.
Well, and they actually color coded the subtitles, which I thought was
cool.
kind of a cool decision.
And very
I've been watching a lot of foreign films lately, and so when that, I'm like, wait a minute, we're all in Wakanda right now. All these people are Wakandan. Why are they just speaking Wakandan? I had that thought a couple of times, but I'm like, it's a North American movie. It's for American audiences primarily.
But that's why I hesitated and said, and I was thinking, like, is my issue actually that I'm having to read subtitles and listen to people speaking foreign languages too long, or is it that I think a lot of this dialogue is extraneous? And I think that's actually more of what it is.
That's a good
like,
point.
A lot of these scenes just went on too long. There was a lot of extraneous stuff, I thought, and entire subplots I found extraneous.
I would agree.
I was excited that Ross came back, and then by the end of the movie, I went, "Why is he here? Get him out of the movie."
I think that adds to my pacing problem of it just feeling uneven. I wouldn't go as far as I see what Cap is saying, but I wouldn't go as far as him about T'Challa's policies that are not felt. I feel like this whole movie just deals with the loss of, him and who he was and where do we go from here, who's going to protect us and things like that. But I wanted more, and this is a big Marvel problem that I have, Marvel Studios problem that I have. Not just the death stuff. Like when characters die, they're like Vision's back, Nick Fury's back. Like Nick Fury should have died in Winter Soldier. Like we need to feel these things. Not just the resurrection problem, but like when things happen, they're not dealt with. Like we don't deal with the fallout of Civil War. We don't deal with the fallout of the blip. Like it's made a joke in Spider-Man.
Not enough.
Far From
They
Home. Or
think
whatever.
they have, and you can tell, but they haven't done anything like enough of it. Yeah.
Like when Namor floods, and the difficulty where I'm coming from is like I read the comics, so I read Jonathan Hickman and I see where Shuri is coming from and T'Challa is coming from. When I watch the movie, like when Namor floods Wakanda, I want to hear what the Wakandan people have to say. I want to hear, do they subscribe to Killmonger? Do they subscribe to King T'Chaka? Do they subscribe to T'Challa? Do they not want Shuri in the throne? Like, what do these people, like, what do they believe in? I only get the royalty and I only get the military.
Well, and in the first
I'm fine
movie,
with making a World of Wakanda movie, and I'm fine with making a Shuri movie. You can't have both. And
no,
I feel like it's imbalanced.
No, I'm totally with you. That stuff is too much in the background, but we're acting like that's what the movie's about. And I never had that problem so much with the first one. I'm really worried going back now. I'm gonna feel it more because that's a complaint I've heard from Austin and other folks too. Because I'm with you. We keep seeing these shots of this huge city, and it feels way too small. When you get to and I don't want to just review that movie again. I'm gonna talk about this when I get to the rewind in probably a couple of weeks. I was gonna do it tomorrow, but I'm gonna do something tomorrow night on why can't I think of people's names right now? Kevin Conroy. But anyway, I was this last viewing of Black Panther, I got hit with something I hadn't as hard before, which was not only, Kareem, do we not get what the people on the ground feel about what's happening in their country, but you also have just kind of these really easy, arbitrary choices, even for the military and some of the royalty, where it's like, well, everybody that's under Okoye's command is just going to do whatever she says in any situation. And I'm like, in this kind of a volatile sort of situation where you have mutiny, I'm not sure that would happen. I feel like there'd be at least a couple of people that would run off on their own, and on a crusade you'd have a little bit of anarchy going on, right? Like it's too easy for Killmonger to take over. And so I'll talk about that when I get to that movie, but this for some reason made some of that worse for me. I think partly just because, again, I didn't get enough of how everybody was feeling about stuff that had been going on for years. It also has that time and place problem where sometimes it feels like the first Black Panther movie happened a year ago, and sometimes it actually feels like it happened 6 years ago, like it was supposed to. When the Queen freaks out on Okoye for all the mistakes she feels that Okoye made during the first movie, that came out of nowhere.
Oh, I disagree. I think that's the best scene in the movie.
Oh, wow, okay. I vehemently disagree with that. I don't think it was remotely built up to at all. I didn't get any sense of animosity with her earlier in the film, and I feel like that needs to be there. I didn't understand why that was. I get the idea that like it might finally now bubble up and boil over, but I didn't get any sense of it earlier in the movie. I don't know. And I also thought her performance overall was a little over the top. But
interesting.
yeah,
I thought all the performances were great in this.
Not me. No, I don't think there's a great performance in this movie except for maybe Namor. No, seriously, not impressed overall. And the thing is, I love Shuri in the first movie. I think she is overall fine in this. But I wasn't even real blown away by her. But I think part of it was I wasn't buying some of what the script was selling. And so I feel like some of those actors were doing the best they possibly could, but I wasn't with them on her revenge arc. I think is sloppy at best.
All right, Kareem, you've got the floor. Let him have it.
As far as that scene, I think it's the best acted. Like, I think it's the best scene in this movie because this film opens with, it's all about grieving, right? It's all about loss. And she not only had her husband murdered, but she lost her son. Her kingdom is, I understand why she freaked out with Okoye. And I also didn't have Okoye felt like sort of one-dimensional in this. I felt like they added some dimensions to her character. And I don't know. I was
I agree
like
with you.
what? What new was here for her at all? I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm just asking because I didn't see it. Whatever it is, I saw the movie one time. I'm hoping there's a new dimension to it when I see it again, but I'm just calling it like I'm seeing it in the moment.
I guess I was just won over by the performances. Like, I just feel the sense of loss of like her king is gone and she's trying to just protect this family.
Well, so I thought that this is like one of those things where it comes to like the Okoye character. I was a little mixed overall in terms of how she was handled. I think for the first act, she's kind of given some awkward comic relief, and I think Denai Guerrero's performance, she was sort of like the straight man in the first movie, where a lot of the humor just kind of came from how professional she was, and so you'd have people maybe joking around, and it would just bounce off of her, right? With this though, for the first act, I was a little like, why are we giving her so much of like the comic relief here? I don't find it particularly funny. But
the whole thing about makeup and
that was like rambling, especially like you got to blend in and let me send it in for 5 minutes, and then that whole bit went on a little too long. But there's not a lot of comic relief here, and whatever there is in that first act, I didn't find particularly funny. But I think once I think it's a good angle to have for Shuri's okay, I want to protect I think it's a good idea to get Shuri out. I'll protect her, and then I failed, and so you have this kind of pride thing going on with Queen. Is it Ramona? Ramonda?
Yeah,
Ramonda?
I think.
Okay. And I think the kind of pride element that comes with the royalty and the military I like that when they butt heads, it kind of comes down to a hierarchy and pride thing that is really the only time I think the movie is really addressing that. And I think that was a decent angle to have. I think overall, Okoye doesn't have enough to do ultimately. And when they do try to be hey, I'm going to fight you because 2 hours ago we had a fight, time for the rematch. That's obviously all undercooked. And the whole revenge element, I think, could have been brought more to the fore if, this was an Okoye movie, but it's not. I think the movie gets a little overambitious with that character. But I think what's there,
some really good character parallels between her and Shuri.
And I think the revenge stuff with Shuri is way too late in the game.
Because of just how, thanks, because me too. But you look at just how angry and jaded and mad at the world both of those characters are, and there was a thing to do there. And honestly, I like Shuri's toward the beginning sometimes I just want to burn the world to the ground thing. because she's
And
not
that's very
actually.
indicative of her character in the comics. She's way more militant in the comics.
Yeah. Um, I I like that that doesn't come from at the beginning, and this is part of why I thought the revenge thing with Namor was a little too easy, and I don't know if I'd go as far as to say half baked, but like we're trying to do some kind of uh connection to how she's feeling toward the beginning with that. But at the beginning, it's not even that she's mad at anyone in particular. It's just, I should have been able to solve this problem and I couldn't. And so now I can't help but feel like I want to lash out at the world. Like the universe is unfair because I know the ability I have and I should have been able to deal with this. And to Kareem's point from the beginning, she should have. And the only thing stopping her is real life in the script. And so that's driving her crazy on like an almost meta sort of level. Not really, but you know what I mean. I love getting to a character's dark side like that, where it's not even logical, but it's true. Like that was a scene toward the beginning that rang so true to me. When she refuses to burn the robe or whatever, and she's like, yeah, I just want to lash out. I just want to destroy everything. And I love that she's got that sort of darkness in her, and I wanted that mind more in a more kind of natural way than her mother dies and then she's going after Namor, because I thought her relationship with Namor earlier, where they might actually be able to put together some kind of an alliance, was far more interesting than that.
Same. I had the same thing.
And I do like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kareem.
No, go ahead, Connor. I was going to say.
Oh, and I was just going to say I like that peace offering offers like this like solution to. Like that bracelet that was initially going to be a peace offering leads to this, device where she can solve the problem, because that plant, that
Heart-shaped
dye, it is from vibranium-rich soil, and it's like we're comparing the two. I just think the problem there.
Okay, but we all called
that
that, right? Like, as soon as that comes into the story, especially the flashback, when you have somebody doing this and mashing it up, I'm like, oh, it's just the heart-shaped herb, right? And then
it is.
That's what it is.
But I don't know. I like that. I like how it's like, these two civilizations are very similar in that way. But what
I do too. It made a lot of sense.
I'm
just saying, I called it right away. I was like, they play it as sort of a reveal. I'm like, yep, I called this half an hour. It's Iron Man 2. Kareem mentioned that earlier. That was the big thing, Kareem, that reminded me of Iron Man 2, because it's almost exactly the same thing where, like Tony is dying and he needs to figure out how to make a new element for his arc reactor. And then he finds a thing that his dad has that just gives it to him on a silver platter, and then the answer is triangle shape. And then now he's able to make a new arc reactor, and he's okay. This is the same thing, but almost in reverse, or like it's too late, where it's like, well, if only I'd found Namor like a year ago, then I could have saved my brother.
Yeah,
it's really funny that it's sort of the same thing.
Connor,
Connor, I didn't mean to step on you, man, but that was.
That's all good.
That all came back to
comparison to Iron Man 2. I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah. A lot of these twos got similar things going on.
Well, see, I have this stupid obsession, Connor, with the MCU with heart motifs. And as soon as the heart-shaped herb comes up in the first movie, and Kareem, I hadn't read a lot of Black Panther comics, and I hadn't gotten to that until later. So I've read about that stuff since then, but I hadn't before. So that was my introduction to that, and I was like, we're still doing this heart motif, even post Iron Man movies. And all I can do is compare now these three guys with Captain America, or with Iron Man and Captain America, and Black Panther, and how they relate to the heart motif.
And now we have an Ironheart.
Yeah. And how much do I not like that that suit has nothing at all to do with Tony Stark, except that's where the initial tech comes from?
I was going to ask you guys, did she even mention Tony Stark's name?
No, there is a mention somewhere of Stark Tech, and she's not the one that says it. and that's it that I
I was
noticed.
looking for like, hey, I was an intern or whatever.
Yeah, or I grew up a big fan of Tony Stark. Really sucked when he died. I'm gonna continue on his legacy because I'm as smart as he was. Nope, none of that.
Okay. I was very close to saying Riri Williams was going to be my worst thing about the movie. And I think that she ultimately plays a massive part in what is ultimately my big problem with this movie is that it's an ensemble plot for a single protagonist story.
Yeah.
And she's a MacGuffin. She basically doesn't have a character. And what's really frustrating is when you get to the end of it, like she is the thing everyone's fighting over. And then it's like when you get to the final conflict, it's like they've all forgotten about her. And it's like, and then like the resolution is she gets to go back to college. Well, isn't the CIA after her? What happened to them? Like, what's happening? Like,
I had the same
But
thing.
she gets her cool car back, Connor.
oh, by the way, like, sorry if this is TMI. I had to use the restroom before this thing started. And then I went to the restroom and it was all full. I was like, well, shoot, I guess I got to hold it for 3 hours. And then I went and sat down and I was like, wait a minute. I just drank 2 tall glasses of water. This movie's full of water, by the way. I did not go to the restroom once during this. And by the time we are resolving this, I'm like, come on, guys. Like, so I forgot about the new car. I'm like, really? A new car? Great. I could be in the restroom right now. Come on, let's
I think
let's
it's
speed this
incredible
up.
that you had to go to the bathroom the entire time and still liked the movie as much as you do. Like, that's astounding. That would affect my appreciation of the film, I think.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I do want to go see it again. But I don't know, the third act bothers me with this, and it's because I feel like a lot of stuff just gets dropped, and I wish it honestly dropped more so we could maybe, if we're gonna drop stuff, drop more so we can focus on Shuri and Namor fighting because that's the conflict I'm invested in. I don't know why, like, I don't know, once you get to the third act, I don't even know why Riri's even here, and that's I think why she's my least favorite part of the movie. I'm sorry, what was that, Kareem?
No, go ahead, Connor.
No, that was basically just gonna run in circles for a second, but go ahead.
Like I was gonna add to that, but before I do,
Sonic the Hedgehog.
I do that. I gain momentum, then I don't know when to stop, and then I just kind of peter off. So, Kareem, go ahead.
It's all
Save
good.
me.
I was gonna add to that, but before I do, I wanted to mention a quick thing about the Okoye Queen thing. I had the same thing. I keep mentioning The Dark Knight Rises, but I had the same thing with Bruce and Alfred, where it's like they have this horrible fight, and then they'll never like reconciliate.
I couldn't deal
like,
with that either.
Like the queen died, saying the most hatred like stuff to her.
And there's no talk about it later either.
Yeah, and that bothered me.
There's
and then,
not even a moment where Okoye's like, wow, I really wish that wasn't our last, exchange together. And it would have been nice if she'd, like, even I mean, it would have been too cheesy to have her, like, in the middle of a fight scene, like, yell something about the queen or whatever. But it might have been nice if, like, just before they go off to battle, it's like, I'm going to redeem myself now.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it up to her. I know, and also we could tie that into the afterlife stuff and the religion, right? Like, I know death is not the end. She's watching me now. I'm gonna make it up to her. It's gonna matter.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting, and I think I'm a lot lighter on these like movies in general because I use light gloves for the Marvel movies because I'm so used to like them introducing these basic proxy characters and then expanding them later. So the Riri thing, I was walking into this theater thinking we were just gonna get a standard, skin of a character, and then we'll just do it in the Disney Plus and the Avengers 5 or 7 or whatever. I'm used to these movies not having the agency and the stakes and things like that. Like the first Doctor Strange movie, I didn't care for, and I had similar problems with Doctor Strange in that. But then, like in Infinity War or whatever, that's Doctor Strange to me. Like I'm used to that happening. But a larger point would be like I'm like I was caught up in these performances, and I was caught up in what they were trying to say, and also I felt like Black Panther came out in 2018. And then this is Wakanda, 1, and there'll be like a part 8, based on like what they were trying to set up with Neymar and Talokan as a nation state, and Wakanda, and all of this, and like, you know, the spoiler alert, the ending credit scene where we get the new, you know, like they're basically testing the waters, like, are you guys fine with this if we do this? This felt very much like part one of like an 8-part saga or something like that. So I was fine with Shuri just, you know, kind of being a little awkward in her new mantle.
Yeah, I mean that stuff's okay, but when you say like, well, Weary is just being introduced here, so you know you're surprised they even did as much as they did with her. But see, I feel that way, Kareem, about some of the major Wakandan players, where I gave the first movie a pass with certain characters that it didn't really delve into and give us a lot for, and then this movie still didn't do very much with them. Like, I don't know what M'Baku's deal is, really. Like, I like him. I like his performance a lot. He's hilarious. And I think legitimately so. Some people think that that's too much like standard like Marvel humor. Every time he says something, I'm kind of into it. One of my very short list of, I have a very short list of bucket list items with this movie, and one of them was I really need him once again to say "Glory to Hanuman," and I got it. And I love that. I don't know why, just the way he says that, I like "Glory to Hanuman."
Okay.
I was like, yeah.
I want to throw my hat in the ring very quickly. Kareem, earlier you were mentioning performances. We were talking performances. I know a lot of the praise is getting heaped on Angela Bassett. I get it. It's a very traditionally showy performance. I think Winston Duke as M'Baku is easily the movie's best performance. He is so good in this movie. He's so good.
It's probably Neymar, actually, but I do like him a lot.
Neymar was
like
8.
The way in which Winston Duke is able to just play the heavy scenes heavy, the way he's able to be funny, the way he's able to just do, like, Winston Duke is just awesome in general. Like, every time he shows, like, that is he's like, as a supporting player, he is playing that role so good that I am focusing on him in every scene he is in. Like, that's I love him. I love him so much.
But yeah, we still don't know enough about the background of his tribe and why they were broken up for Wakanda for so long. They still haven't dealt with any of that. Like, now they're kind of getting along, and they've never. So I guess we'll never do that. Like, you know, and if you know it from the comics, I guess you could just assume that that's what it is in the movies. But that's not good enough. This is not supplemental material, and I also was getting a little bit of a. I'm going to go to another 2 movie. Connor, the end of this movie also gave me Thor: The Dark World vibes, because you get.
I was gonna say there's a lot of Thor: The Dark World in this movie.
Yeah, because like there were
dead moms.
There were stretches I thought were a little boring with this movie. This is way better than Thor: The Dark World. Don't get me wrong, but you get to the end of the movie, and there's a big surprise of a character that you didn't realize was going to show up and maybe try to take the throne. And it's kind of the same Loki thing, except he's doing it, you know, through the right channels and whatever, and he's not, you know, he's not using a hologram, but yeah. So I had that thought. Who's he gonna fight though? I was very perplexed by that. It's like, I guess Shuri's decided she doesn't want the throne. Be nice if there was conversation about that, but whatever. Baku's just
Is that
like,
what it was? Because I kind of assumed it was Shuri's gonna take it for a little while, and we're gonna wait till this kid grows up, and then we're gonna have our T'Challa. Like, how is this kid gonna be the new Black Panther? Like,
well, not yet. Obviously, somebody else is gonna have the throne for a while. That's why he's challenging. He wants to take the throne right now.
Oh, okay. Did I leave after? Like, we're talking about the beach scene, right?
Yeah. He shows up and he goes, "I'm here to challenge." Like, he's gonna fight somebody, but it's.
You're talking about M'Baku.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna fight somebody
I
for the
throne.
throne.
About the kid.
But it's not.
The kid's like, "What up?"
No, because that's why Shuri. No, that's why Shuri's not there, because she's going to talk to the kid, and meanwhile, M'Baku is going to take the throne.
Okay, yeah.
But unless somebody else can beat him in a fight, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I had bladder brain. I had no idea what was going on in that scene.
That whole setup is really awkward, because I guess, and it needs to be explained, because it's weird that we don't get any more than just him going, "Shuri will not be here today. I'm gonna fight someone now," and I'm like, is that how that works though? Don't you have to fight the person who's like up for the throne? Is it like if she decides not to show up on what you've just arbitrarily decided is challenge day now, like anybody can fight for the throne? It's very strange.
It's
All of
very
the warriors are still coughing up water. Well, who's gonna fight M'Baku?
Is it gonna be the guy with the plate in his face? Is that who's gonna fight M'Baku?
It's very
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Kareem.
I would give real money to see that. By the way,
it's very Thor Valkyrie, where it's like, okay, we don't know what to do with Thor. You know, let's put her in the throne.
And I think it'd be really interesting to see what the reign would be like. You know, what M'Baku's reign would be like. But,
I would love to see that.
But we're not going to do anything interesting with it politically, because 2 movies in, and with all these event movies, we still haven't done anything. And it's the same problem they've got with Asgard. It's like a little better than with Asgard, but wouldn't, and I always say this, I don't want to rewrite the movie, but wouldn't the conflict, isn't the obvious, more interesting conflict here, Shuri versus, like other major players in Wakanda? Like, they have a, they have like an argument, an ideological conflict, excuse me, about how to handle Namor. Wouldn't it have been a lot more interesting if she and Namor actually come to some kind of an agreement, and she's like, we need to team up with them and like you know, bend at the knee a little bit, even though we don't love that we have to do that. And there's a whole like kind of, you know, splintering of the guard in Wakanda. Wouldn't that have been a lot more interesting? Like, where is that kind of thing in these movies?
That's kind of my big problem with Marvel movies. Is like
Yeah. Go ahead, Connor. Yeah.
Oh, well, and my biggest problem, honestly, with the third act, apart from Riri just sort of like evaporating from the movie in terms of like what people want, like if she's a MacGuffin, people aren't like, at least in like, you know, Doctor Strange 2, America Chavez is always like, getting pulled by the hair in every direction, and, you know, quick, follow the screaming girl, we gotta save her. Like, that's like, you're always aware of like what's at stake, right? It's that shrieking girl over there.
And this girl was no America Chavez, let me tell you.
Yeah, and at least like she got to like, you know, save the day at the end because Zombie Strange gave her a motivational speech. It was wonderful. My dog heard me, or my mom's dog heard me screaming, so I was coming on over to say.
Are you all right?
Yeah. Hey, buddy. But like when it comes to this movie, what was frustrating to me about the way it resolves is like there is nothing that like kept, aside from Shuri having a Black Panther costume and super strength, they could have reached this exact same culmination like an hour and a half earlier. Like it was like they have like some discussion about like.
I thought the whole movie should have been about an hour 45 with what we have of substance.
And that's the thing is like they're talking, they're like kind of having a discussion like, okay, what do we do? I need to know that Wakanda is an ally. Well, we can't like just give up Riri. Like, you know, she's like, you know, we'll keep her in Wakanda. And he's like, that's not good enough. And then they have a big fight over it. And then Shuri decides not to kill Namor. And then they decide, well, you know what? We're just going to be allies. And Riri doesn't even need to be in Wakanda. And it's like, what the, huh? Like, it was like there's not enough, I think, built in the interim where it's like, okay, the stakes have been raised. This is why we can't reach a peace treaty. And then like the ultimate peace treaty that's reached, there needs to be more compromise. I don't feel like there's enough compromise from either side or one side or the other. It's like nothing really changed in the interim hour and a half besides Ramonda died, Shuri had like a bloodlust, she got like a revenge trail, and she got like Black Panther powers. And it's like, I feel like you could have replaced Namor in that situation with anything else. Yep. What if the CIA tried coming in to like take over, and then like that's how Ramonda dies? Like, why does it need to be Namor?
Man, be a
why does
little
it
more
need to be Namor?
Sophisticated about it.
Why does it need to be this specific conflict? And I don't feel like there's enough of a reason for that. And that was disappointing about. I feel like a lot of this conflict was easily avoidable, and the resolution is just one of the possible resolutions from like an hour ago, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, and I think I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think the political thriller, kind of Winter Soldier-ish, you know, espionage and intrigue and things like that, I agree with Connor. Like, I don't expect that from these movies consistently, because I get that from the comics all the time, and the comics are so involved in terms of that kind
Then
of
tell a
quality.
different story. Is my
Yeah,
thing.
I would agree. The reason I was
I'm not going into Doctor Strange 2 complaining there's no political intrigue. It's not about that. So tell a
yeah,
different kind of story if you're not going to do that.
the reason I was won over by all of this stuff, and I mentioned this before because I agree with some of what Austin is saying, Cap, about like it's a standard movie. It's pretty basic and stuff. About the
For
first
the first
one,
one, yeah, because he hasn't seen
uh,
that.
it's a very standard movie and things like that. I feel like this is the same thing, but even less so, and it has a lot of problems given the circumstances and given the story they've chose. But what won me over was not only the cultural impact of the first one, but it is so biting,
Yeah.
um, and uh, it's such a black story. Like I'm still shocked. I watched it earlier this week, and I'm still shocked at how they were able to get away with a lot of that stuff in the first one. This has a little bit less of a, it has a lot less of a bite to it. They do some metaphors with like colonization with Neymar's people in Wakanda and things like that, but I was surprised at how far they got to go for the first one. And that's what won me over on the first one. I was like, wow, this is a Disney movie. But the second one is like, okay, I'm expecting, you know, to not like the creative decisions and the narrative decisions. But eventually, you know, I like these characters and stuff, but a lot of that, you know, sloppiness and the pacing and just the lack of depth, the lack of the meat, the too much fat, really just was more evident. I still enjoyed this. I think better than both of you, but I can see what you're talking about with the lack of political intrigue.
Well, and Kareem,
Especially
some of it at the end of the day just comes down to that first movie resonated with me really hard. And this
Yeah.
movie just didn't. Like, I'm just reporting the experience I had, and then we can, you know, dissect it and backtrack and see why. I thought that first movie was really profound in some places and
Same.
was really eloquent in some of the real world you know, issues, with, particularly with social division. In how it attacked that stuff and how it was suggesting that revenge is not the answer and this is not what equality looks like with what Killmonger is doing. Boy, I thought that was such an important thing to be said in a movie that everybody and his dog is going to go see. And this movie didn't really get too far away from those same ideas. It just wasn't as good at them. Like, yeah, there's a little bit new here when we elevate that to nation states. And I felt like I meant to say this earlier. I felt like the main theme of this movie, curiously, was entitlement. Who is entitled to the vibranium? Who is entitled to their own personal revenge at the expense of anything else, et cetera, et cetera. And I wish that was a little bit more to the fore, because you could argue that the first movie is also kind of about entitlement, but then this would be taking that like even further into the nines, and that was the thing I latched onto, but it didn't resonate with me as well because I thought it was too kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and to me, I think they kind of they tried to Spider-Man Far From Home, Shuri's character, where
That's another two movie, Connor.
Yeah.
Hold on. That's three. That's four. Three connections. We
writing
missed.
these down. So Tom Holland Spider-Man, they try to be like, get it? He's the new Iron Man. See what he's doing at the end? And the Shuri, the same thing with, at the end of Civil War, Black Panther, you know, becomes the T'Challa character, and she does the same thing on the island, and it just doesn't work, and it's so awkward at the end.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. I guess that's actually kind of true.
She has the same lines where she's like, you know, vengeance consumes.
Yes. Thank you
Yeah,
for bringing that
and
up.
it's that's the problem, is it's the same arc, but like I felt like in Civil War I saw Black Panther actually go through that arc, and here it was 5-minute wrap up, and it's like, well, you're already at 2:40. Why don't you take your time and like, like in the moment, explain this to me, because maybe this doesn't bother other people. I hate stuff like this. She goes to the Ancestral Plane and she sees Killmonger for no other reason than it would be cool to have a cameo here, and I say that, like, I actually like her seeing Killmonger, if only you could win me over on that's who she sees over anybody else, but, like, what? dictates who you see in the Ancestral Plane. Because in the first movie, both of the guys just their dads, right?
Mhm.
But here it's Killmonger. Okay, and then oh wait, no, psych, it's also her mom, except that already happened and it was before, and you're not in the Ancestral Plane before, and this isn't a flashback unless it is, and you just conveniently didn't give us that part of it. But I don't think that's what's going on.
No, she was angry coming out of the Ancestral Plane because she thought it was a hoax. She only saw Killmonger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
so
I don't buy. Sorry. I gotta say this real quick. I also don't buy anybody in Wakanda not believing in the afterlife. Go ahead, Connor.
okay,
I'll buy it.
I buy Shuri not.
Yeah, I buy Shuri.
But so
What, does she
here's
think her
what
brother was lying, or did he just never tell anybody what he saw in the
No.
Ancestral Plane?
I think it comes back to what she's talking about at like the beach with her mom, where she's like, all that's just like responses in your brain. Like,
okay,
you know,
that's true. She does
you
have a
take-
good speech about that.
you have a herb, you get buried. It's like taking a psychedelic that brings you close to
Okay.
death. Like probably some DMT is getting released in your head. Like that's
I
probably what you're
rescind
doing.
that complaint. That's fair. I forgot about that scene.
So,
I saw that movie one time.
yeah, hey, it's cool. But there's like a thing where it's like, here's what I like about her seeing Killmonger in the Ancestral Plane. In the first movie, Killmonger is Coogler's like POV character. I feel like he's voicing a lot of what he wants to say through Killmonger. And then in this movie, it's Shuri. And so having his like kind of POV character from that first movie talking to his POV movie from this character, artistically, I really, really like that.
No, I do too.
Now, what I don't like is what you're talking about is this like, okay, internal logic wise, why she never really talked to Killmonger. Why would she choose that? And it also just kind of feels like a way to motivate a third act revenge plot that should be more of this movie. And that's what I don't like about it.
I was imagining a
but-
waiting room where like everybody in the afterlife is like standing in this room, and there's like a revolving door, and Killmonger's like shoving everybody out of the way, and he's like, I gotta rush in there so that I can tell her that revenge is a good thing, and that she should go kick Namor's ass because he killed her mom. And he even pushes her mom out of the way so that he can say that. Or he like
Out of the way,
he murders
Auntie.
people in the Ancestral Plane, and like just before he comes in, he's putting more dots on himself.
Yeah.
So two things. Connor, were you saying something?
Oh no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He went through all that makeup again for like a 3-minute scene.
So two things with that. One, I had the funny thing, the Batman thing, where Bruce Wayne is always talking about father. You know, I shall become a bat. Father. This. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, your mom died too. Like they never mentioned their dad.
Look, it was a different time, Kareem.
I've never thought about that.
Well, can I be honest with you, Kareem? I don't want to get in too much of a Batman place, but I always assumed that that's why at some point we retconned it and we had the Batman costume first come from his father at a party or something, just so that there's some reason that his father's got to be so intertwined to that icon.
It's such an old school patriarch. I get it, but it's like, dude, your parents died. Like, but anyways, I had the same thing with this where their dad died viciously. Like, I get that T'Challa died, but you know, the dad died, T'Challa died, and the Queen died. Let's keep that all together. But also with the Killmonger thing, the reason I liked it, not just like from the comic standpoint, like Shuri is a lot more politically aligned with Killmonger, not as extreme as he is, but she's way more intense than T'Challa is. But also, I guess that was a tease of the fans. I get what you guys are saying about, you know, it felt obligatory. But also, Killmonger's last line before he died was, you know, bury me in the sea. You know, my ancestors chose death before bondage or whatever.
Yeah.
And Wakanda's drowned and flooded and things like
That's a
that,
good
and
call.
he's in that. And I wish they went farther with that, of showing the people, like I said, the people of Wakanda, and being like, we agree with Killmonger. Like we're gonna form a mutiny and things like that. Like that's how involved the comics are, and you have different Wakanda is not just a monolith of people. Like you have different people and different sects.
Well, and if you did that, I would actually, and again, now I'm talking about the first movie again, but if you did that, I would buy more of the crazy stuff he does and is still allowed to sit on the throne, because
Yeah.
I never bought that he burns the herbs. Like, it's crazy he's able to go that far just with what little we're given in that movie. And that, like, T'Challa shows up, it clearly wasn't a legitimate takeover of the throne, and yet most people still back him.
Oh, you're talking about Killmonger.
With Killmonger, yeah.
No, I really like that scene because he's become the colonizer. Like that's a historically that's what they do is they burn libraries and stuff. Like
I get that
think
on paper, but it's too short of a time span. Like T'Challa
Yeah,
walks back in 2 days later, and you're telling me that many people don't raise their hands in there and go, wait a minute, his ascension to the throne, not legitimate. Like, here's the real king right here. I'm not buying it, Kareem. You could get me there. I get the point of it, but I don't think it works.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
It's 2 days.
We should talk about Neymar and his people.
I was just about to say that. Good call,
Before
Kareem.
we
Let's
do
talk
that,
about
my
Neymar.
favorite thing
But
about
guys, could we please put a pin in that, because we are an hour 25 in and we've not done one super chat.
Okay.
So please let me get through these real quick, and then we will totally go back to Namor, because I also want to complain some more about Riri Williams, because we haven't had nearly enough of that. Robert Wild, $5 super chat. Best of Phase 4 to me. I'm seeing a lot of that in the comments. Angela Bassett stole the show. See, so people are going to hate me. I was not super impressed with her, but whatever. The music was great, and some scenes were emotionally resonant for me. I loved the score in the first scene. With some of the motifs from the first movie, but using different instruments. Yeah, it is a really good score.
Oh, I also had the kind of cultural thing where I really love that Wakandan culture, obviously based on a lot of African cultures. Funerals, they wear white, and it's more of a celebration of the life than just mourning.
Yeah.
I really dig that.
Yeah, speaking to music, I really like Ludwig Göransson's musical score in the first movie is really cool, really cool. I like how he incorporates nylon string acoustic guitars. Like that was really cool. And lyrical music too, that I think worked very, very splendidly.
I am concerned that we might have already lost some super chats because we've been talking too long. So if we don't get to yours, please just put it as a regular comment and write super chat in big letters before it, and I'll make sure and read it. I hope everybody's still here. My apologies. Goofster123. We just get sucked to a time vortex when we're talking about these movies. $5 super chat. Really appreciate you, man. I feel like the post credits implies that we're doing a Smallville-esque Jimmy Olsen thing. I almost said that with T'Challa, where his son is the real T'Challa. Yeah, because he's not there long enough.
I don't know if I go as far as to say the real T'Challa, but like I that was the part of like the tribute element that I feel like it maybe crossed the line into, I don't know, like now I'm not able to give this movie its conceit so much as like now we have T'Challa Jr. And
also,
I'm like,
what's the what is the sorry, I'm trying to think of the right word. What's the standard protocol for that in their culture? What's their tradition? Like, T'Challa was T'Chaka's son. Do they ever name each other like their kids after themselves, or do we just do it here so we have a T'Challa?
No, we just do it here because that's not a common thing.
That's what I thought, Kareem.
And it's also, speaking of another movie, Star Trek Into Darkness. By the way, that's my Haitian name. My Wakandan name is T'Challa. Hey, and then at the very least, hold on, that's two movies.
We don't talk about that movie. You shut your mouth. We don't talk about that.
Again, the Dark Knight Rises thing, where it's like, you should go by my real name, Robin.
Oh, and the heart-shaped herb is like magic triple blood. But I digress. Senior Sticks. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Can I do a real quick thing?
It's not actually. Sorry, good.
His son, I know, confirmed they're doing that to test the waters to be like, do you guys like this or not? Yeah. Do you accept this? We're not going to recast. Like, they confirmed that. So they're waiting to see if the world responds, like, positively to okay, this is going to be our T'Challa. We're going to do all the richness and the character layers and things with this guy. And two, I think it's really cool that his name is Toussaint. Toussaint Louverture was the father of Haiti and the leader of the Haitian Revolution.
Oh wow!
So I think they did that like really cool. But I just wanted to say that is confirmed by the creators. Like I know they wanted to do a World of Wakanda Disney Plus show that was canceled. So Black Panther 3 is confirmed, but they're like, this is our T'Challa. Do you guys like this? That's pretty much what it was.
So what are they going to shoot way into the future? Like, are they going to put him in some sort of a time vortex and age him up? Like,
well, you never know what Quantumania or whatever, the multiverse saga, Secret Wars. What are they going to do? Like,
they'll find some way to age him up, right? And I just hope they find an adult actor that's a little better than that kid actor, because I kept going, quit giving him dialogue.
The Blue Power Ranger Turbo thing.
What's that?
The Blue Power Ranger, like, what is it, Turbo or something?
Yeah.
Where he goes into his costume, then he's an adult.
He morphs, and then he grows like 12 inches, yeah.
I thought the kid was cute. I thought he was a pretty good actor.
He was cute. I think they gave him way too many words to say.
But I don't know. I thought he was fine. I don't have a problem with
this movie's about entitlement. I am entitled to my opinion, Connor.
I want a Geekvolution compilation of Cap just dissing child actors.
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem.
Look, I've seen hold on, I gotta say this because Kareem, the problem is I can't praise great child actors if I never complain about the ones that don't work.
I'm completely with you. I just think it's really
you can't
funny.
have your cake and eat it too on this because people will be like, oh, that's low hanging fruit, man. You can't say a child actor's not very good. I'm like, well then I guess I can't say they're good either. Then you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You gotta have the contrast. No, I can dog on it and like yeah, cute kid, whatever. Not the best possible casting. Or if you're going to use that kid, give him one line, not 5.
I also think I had bladder brain. I'm like, all right, I know this is a post-credit scene. They kind of couched it, after the credits. But like the thing though, I don't have a problem with him having a kid. I just don't like that they also call him T'Challa.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about it.
That's like it feels like having your cake and eating it too, where it is like we're not going to recast him, but we're going to kind of recast him. Like I didn't really care for that. But.
Okay, more super chats. Cedar Sticks, Wakanda doesn't give out vibranium. The heart-shaped herb is traditional. Well, yeah, that's true. Also, Grant's superhuman power and Black Panther is the champion and protector. I'm not totally sure what point he's making. But again, why do you need? It's traditional and it's a symbol and an icon, and I get that part of it. But the movie treats it like, if you don't have somebody wearing this costume that has taken the heart-shaped herb, you lose fights. Like, that's what it feels like by the end. Because they didn't have a Black Panther when Neymar attacked, and then when they went and attacked, they won ultimately. I mean, it wasn't, they weren't in the right when they did it and all that, but like, I don't know, it does kind of watch that way to me. I don't get why you need it if she can come up with suits that give you super strength.
Yeah, I had the same thing where I was like, why is this special? Anyone can take this herb. And I also, I think they made it work within the context of the film, but I heavily resist, okay, I can make an herb in a laboratory. Like,
I resisted that too.
It's like the Force, making the Force scientific, where it's like this mystical sort of thing, can just be made in the lab. And if only I had the right substance, then I resisted that.
I liked it. It won me over. What I like about I wish the movie became more about this. It became about a revenge thing. But like, what I like about what I also liked about like the way they kill off T'Challa is that it motivates Shuri as a character. It's not just a big sad thing. They did find a story reason in latching it onto Shuri and like. But what I liked about what Shuri's thing with what that like kind of inherently has with it is that she is all about like she kind of like M'Baku talks about it, in the first movie they reference it here, like she scoffs at tradition. She doesn't get the whole tradition spiritual aspect of Wakandan life. She's very science tech brained. And what I like about a synthetic heart-shaped herb is that it's a way of her sort of taking her technologically brained future, like mind and like melding it with tradition. It's a way of using technology to evolve tradition, and it's kind of like a way for her to connect with that. And I liked that. I kind of wish the story was more about it, but like, I don't know. I thought that was a good direction to go in ultimately.
Connor, that's okay as an idea, but what I resist about it is that it almost watches like Shuri was right in the first place, that it really is just a hallucinogen, because the only explanation for, once again, why it's Killmonger is, well, she's thinking about revenge real hard right now, so that's who showed up to her, and it's not actually the real ghost from the Ancestral Plane. And the problem is, you can't have it both ways with this, because if I'm remembering this correctly, with the first movie, T'Chaka is telling T'Challa things he didn't know already. Like, it's clearly, definitely T'Chaka. Like, there's no ambiguity at all about the afterlife. It's there, it's real, and you've got other pockets of the Marvel Universe now, of the MCU, where they have their own real honest-to-God afterlives. So it tracks that there are mystical things like this. Once you make it possible for her to make that scientifically, and then she takes it, and then she goes to the Ancestral Plane, unless she was able to recreate the mystical thing, and they come right out and say for sure that's what it is, I'm a little leery of it, because I feel like they're playing it both ways.
Again,
I can see that.
Again, I think I'm in the middle of you guys, because I see what Connor was saying about, the combining like who she is versus tradition and stuff, but I think that defeats the purpose of her arc and being like, on the beach and just actually grieving and burning her garbs and accepting that, okay, even though I'm a futurist, there is some tradition and stuff like that. Like, that doesn't.
And there's things I can't control.
Right. Yeah. I did not get that this is a hallucination. Like, she is in the afterlife when, she ingests the herbs and things. My whole thing is just, in the universe, it feels like a lot less special than they made it out to be in the first one, where it's like, okay, anybody can do, like, I can do this, like, really? I would much rather it be like, okay, their bloodline, because I was walking into this movie thinking this entire movie was going to be like, okay, we know who the next Black Panther is going to be, hint hint, Shuri, and then her resisting that until the third act.
Yeah,
like, I thought that was going to be the whole movie.
Well, and okay. I also had this question, Kareem, then we'll get back to the Super Chats, but I wanted to make sure and bring this up somewhere. Again, not talking enough about the tradition and the culture and just what the rules are. Who is supposed to be Black Panther at any given point? Is there is it always whoever's like young enough and in royalty and about to take the throne? Like, who does it have to be? Or is there sometimes like argument and discourse about it, or is there a challenge about that? Because if it just has to be Shuri, she's the only possible choice because of the bloodline or whatever, I guess I get that. But in the moment, when I was actually a little bit baffled when Okoye gives her the heart-shaped herb, because she is in an unstable frame of mind right then, and that does not seem like the right person to necessarily make Black Panther right now. So they need to talk about that, because it kind of makes everybody else in the room look like sort of dumb. Because
I don't know, I kind of buy the desperation element, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, okay, but it's like it's like I'm in charge right now, and basically like surrogate queen. I'm gonna go attack Neymar, even though nobody agrees with me right now. That's not who you make Black Panther right now, unless they just
formula.
Have to. So if you, so how do you not have the conversation? Is what I'm saying. Nobody ever says, "Wait a minute, is this the person that should be doing this right now?"
And these are people that are trained for these kinds of situations. They should be having those conversations. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'm just thinking of the normal people in Wakanda. Like where would he be in Wakanda? And just like 30 years of a great reign, and then he's killed. The king is killed, and then his kids kind of messes up, and they're killed, and like the wife is killed. And it's like, what's going on here? We're drowning? Like, what's the whole deal?
Yeah, exactly. How do you have this convoluted of a history in like 6 years? And if you're somebody who got blipped, it's like 6 months.
Oh, I wanted to mention that we can talk about that about Neymar, but I feel like that should have fueled more of his motivation of like, hey, my people like disappeared for 5 years. This is the reason I'm waging war because you guys are not handling it right.
I wasn't sure if any of them did, or if he did, or...
Oh, everybody in the universe did. That's
No,
confirmed.
half of them.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But it's not half of each individual section of people. As far as I know, the only person in Wakanda that got blipped was Black Panther. As far as I know, that's it.
No,
like,
we saw some Wakandan
okay.
soldiers.
But it's not half of each civilization.
Yeah.
It's half of the universe. So I'm just saying, there's an outside ballpark chance that nobody else there, with Namor's people, got blipped. They never talk about it, so I don't know. But no, you're absolutely right. Like, this should be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Where it's like, here's all these dumb things you guys keep doing that's affecting us, and now they're after our vibranium.
I was expecting a line like, I've been watching you, there are no more Avengers left, like, I'm going to take over, like, Wakanda, join me, like, I'm going to take over everything.
He's kind of, in a way, and I'm not even really criticizing it for this, but he's kind of Killmonger again, except he has a change of heart at the end, but for strategic reasons. So, like, he hasn't actually had a change of heart. And I like that, because that's very comic book Namor. Like, he's not, he's not cool to everybody now. It looks like by the end, it's more of a strategic thing, where it's like, well, we kind of have them, maybe not over a barrel, but like, we're going to be able to influence them, and we're their only ally. So, I don't know. I liked that choice, I think. And
he's less of a man baby. Like, Killmonger's very much lashing out against the world. I feel like Neymar is trying to protect his people.
Well, this is calculated. I mean, he's waited 6 centuries. He's only doing it now because he's like, well, if we're going to be outed anyway, then we might as well take over the world. And people had issues with Killmonger going as insanely far as he did, where he's just kind of a crazy person. Like, I'm going to give guns to everybody who seems sort of oppressed, and that'll work out. But with this seemed classic Namor to me, where it's like, well, if I have to deal with the surface world, I'm taking it over, obviously. And that's pretty traditional, that character, I think.
Agreed.
Mutale, I loved M'Baku's reaction to Namor's strength. I was so sad in the theater because that was the moment that my son decided to go to the bathroom.
Oh.
And he missed M'Baku getting hit in the chest and going, ooh, and it was great, and he missed it.
I thought he killed him at that moment.
I did too, because like by the way, I guess Marvel is now succumbing to the slow motion problem that DC has. There's a little bit more of that in this movie that I would have liked. But yeah, when his like chest piece explodes, I was like, how many Wakandans are we gonna kill off in this movie?
Again, not to rewrite the movie, but I thought we were gonna go the classic sequel thing where you got the first movie, then the sequel goes like internally in these characters, like Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Like you're dealing with their inner conflict, and it's going to be a lot darker. And we didn't go. I was so let down when we didn't go that way.
I mean, I would argue it's sort of like that, at least from Shuri's perspective. I would make the argument, Kareem, that if Connor got what he wants, and I'm totally with him on it, and this is entirely a singular character piece for Shuri, it's absolutely The Empire Strikes Back for Black Panther.
Yeah. I kind of wanted them to choose, like, okay, Wakanda, an ensemble cast, or Shuri.
Connor, I'm 25 minutes into this movie and not understanding, like, who the real central figures are supposed to be. We spend, like, 5 or 10 minutes in a scene with random American military people trying to get vibranium, and I'm like, I haven't spent enough time with actual characters yet. Like... And on a second viewing, it probably watches a little bit better because Shuri does get a real good setup for her character arc right away, but she's in the middle of everybody else, so I don't realize that that's the movie I'm watching. And like that was somewhat problematic. I needed to stick with her a little bit more often.
See, and I had to think. Well, yeah, I definitely agree. We should have stuck with her a little more often. Right off the bat, it's her praying to Bast.
Yeah,
it's Black. It's her praying, and I'm like immediately. I'm like, awesome. I know exactly what we're doing. And then it got away from that. And I was a little disappointed.
You couldn't be sure, yeah. So you didn't know where you stood with it. And then once it's her movie again, well, it took too long and I wasn't trusting it, and then B, it becomes a plot about Riri Williams being the MacGuffin of the film.
Yeah, and that's not enough of the plot because we also have stuff with Talokan, and so it's like, I mean, Riri's along the ride with that, but she's almost just like an accessory and not really the MacGuffin. I mean, I kind of, but.
And I kind of feel like she's going to sort of watch as the accessory for her own TV show. But let's continue. Billy the Kid Lawrence, $5 super chat. Remember, the true crime of this movie is not a single White Castle in it. I agree. That's so I don't know if it was him or somebody else, but somebody on a show the other day, maybe it was the Weird Al show, I can't remember, but completely unrelated to what we were talking about, felt the need to put in a super chat and go, hey, I've seen Wakanda Forever, and there's not a White Castle in it. And I was hoping, since Riri was in it, that since they built that White Castle for her show, they would put it in this movie. But they didn't do that. Huge letdown.
Why isn't her secret base of operations underneath a White Castle? Like, come on.
Maybe it will be. Maybe in her show it will. Maybe that's why they built a whole White Castle.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Maybe it's across the street from the Krispy Kreme where the Zeo crystal is buried underneath it.
We're gonna get 8 episodes of that show, and each episode is gonna be 40 minutes, and 30 minutes of that episode is gonna be the ending credits art, caption thing. And we're finally gonna get Ironheart in episode 7.
And it's gonna be the exact same costume in this movie, even though they dismantled it. Okay, we might as well just go there real quick before we get to the rest of the super chats, because I keep saying I want to complain about her, and I've already dug my own grave far enough with people anyway that, like, I'm sure people are going to disagree with this. I'm going to say this anyway. I think she is kind of awful and badly cast, and I feel like she reads on the page probably very differently from the way the actress is playing that role. I don't want to go as far as to say that I think she was probably supposed to be a comic relief character. There's a part of me that actually thinks to a degree she should have been, but man, she's got lines that feel to me like they were supposed to be like kind of fun and bouncy and light. And she just seems so jaded and ultra serious for not enough of a good reason through the entire movie. I've never seen this. You get toward the end, she's in her Ironheart suit and she's flying around, and the line in the script, I'm sure, said something along the lines of "woohoo!" exclamation point, like she's having a good time. And what I watched an actress do is go, "woohoo!" Like she's angry while she's like woohooing. It's weird, and she has a few lines of dialogue like that where I'm like, this is supposed to be a jovial character, and you did not cast it that way. And I think she is that way in the comics, and I'm not saying it's bad because they didn't do what's with the comics, because who cares? Nobody cares about this character. As far as I know, I never cared about this character. We're stuck with her now. But like, come on, Marvel, you won me over on America Chavez. Like, I was hoping there was like a chance that maybe you could. Nope. But I think some of it is casting. Like, she's there, she's reading lines. Like, that's my review of her performance.
I would agree that it's probably better on like conceptually, because T'Challa opens Wakanda up to the world, and I viewed it more not as, hey, we're giving vibranium away, as community outreach. And like Killmonger was kind of right. Like, we're an isolationist, nation for centuries, and we didn't help people. So I think on paper, conceptually, like reaching out to this kid, and like she's from what I guess, like, is she a part of the program that they set up?
I didn't think she had anything to do whatsoever with Wakanda.
Okay, because I kind of thought she was a part of that or she, like, her inventions. Was that the route they were going for? Like, her inventions were stolen,
yeah,
and then somebody used it to go to.
Yeah, but I didn't think she had anything to do with Wakanda, the country. She just happened to, like, this seemed really easy and contrived to me. She built a vibranium detector. I don't know why. That's the thing she can do, and she built it, and then somebody got their hands on it. So as far as I understand, that's all it is.
She built it for
Did I
school,
miss something?
and then she's like, I built it for school, and then like the school just sold it to the military without her knowing it.
Okay.
Yeah, she
So
wasn't. And wouldn't it be nice though, Kareem, to have a character like that was like positively influenced by Wakanda and T'Challa's policies? That's what I'm saying. None of that's in the movie. Like T'Challa died kind of for nothing. That's what drives me crazy about it. Is he gets that wonderful speech in the mid-credit scene at the end of the first movie where he's like, there's more that binds us together than separates us. And he had no impact on anybody. It looks like in the rest of the world, according to this movie. Like, okay, they have outreach centers. That's it. That's all we know.
That's totally
and
fair.
you can make it a wonderful tragedy if he tried really hard and there were pockets of people that were getting what he was selling, and it was like it was starting to be like Superman, where like he was like his values were influencing people and they were starting to act better. And then the problem is the government. The problem is
power.
Is power, is big corporations. All the people in power took from it. The people at the very top was these people are powerful. They've got vibranium. This has to be the new nuclear arms race. And we don't get any information about how T'Challa influenced anybody and what the policies were.
Yeah,
and we don't see anybody influenced by like that from the trailer. That big mural, I didn't realize that was going to be in Wakanda. I thought maybe that'd be someplace out, like New York or something. Like, how did he influence the rest of the world? Does anybody else care that he died? Doesn't seem like it. It looks like a footnote.
Well, I agree with the.
I think that's sad.
The Ironheart character, I thought she was like affected by Wakanda somehow, but yeah, you're completely right about that. The performance,
I could be
like
incorrect, but
off,
that's the movie I saw.
Going to Ironheart, I don't know. I thought the performance. Here's what it felt like to me. It felt like that role was cast for the Ironheart show, and then it was sort of like a later decision to kind of just like transplant her into this, and so to me it felt like her performance was tonally mismatched with the film we got, and so I didn't get the jaded like angry thing you did, Cap. It was like this weird kind of like comic relief that just did not feel like it blended with the tone of this, and she's just playing that role like because she was cast for something else. I don't know. That's what it felt like to me.
Why doesn't but explain this to me, okay? Riddle me this, Connor. Why does a character who's why is an actress cast for a character based on somebody in a comic that I've never seen a panel of or a cover of not smiling, is incapable of smiling? Yeah, I don't understand that. That's why I think she looks jaded the whole movie. Well, you cast Riri Williams. I'm expecting she jumps on the screen and she's like, look at all these cool things I made. Where is that? It's really strange. But it feels like the character they wrote is doing that. I'm sorry, Kareem. What was that?
Isn't she a lot younger in the comics?
I think she's in high school or something. Maybe.
There's no way she's 19 in the comics.
No, I think she's younger than that. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't actually.
I think a lot of that joyfulness would have came out if she was a lot younger.
Or just cast an actress who smiles. I don't know.
I didn't have that problem with her, but it definitely felt like, okay, we have this like funeral kind of movie. Let's add some levity to it.
Yeah, I just felt like it was the kind of like
feel like levity to me.
The wrong kind of levity. I don't know. Yeah.
And I didn't think it was levity at all.
I have to see it again. I didn't get that from it.
Okay, yeah. I guess I'm in the middle of you guys. I could see it as comic relief, but like it was just the wrong tone. I don't know.
Kareem, next time you see it, watch for it because she goes, woohoo.
I like how all of us are taking turns saying I'm in between you guys. Like all of us are like a binary, and then there's like one person who's like the monkey in the middle, and then we keep changing who that is.
That's not true. I'm the Killmonger of this stream. I've been extreme on one end of every single argument in the spoiler cast. Have I not? When have I ever been in the middle? This whole and I'm like that a lot, where I'm like, I can't decide. This whole and I walked out of the theater going, I don't even know if I like that. I'm getting to the spoiler cast, and I'm like, this is stupid, and this is not good. Oh, this part's great. great. You guys are like, no, this is great. This is great. No, that thing you liked, yeah, that was dumb.
All right, Kareem, I take it back. We're tag team and being in the middle here. That's what we're doing.
Well, I always have this checklist of Marvel where I just turn my brain. It sounds terrible, but it's just such a standard. And I don't mean to, like, you know, be down on these movies, but I'm like, okay, I'm expecting this, like, you know, minor character that's going to be in a Disney Plus show to just be nothing. So my expectations are here.
And she was.
I'm expecting this to be lower. I'm expecting this to be, like, these, like, as much as I love the first one and I like this one, these movies are very predictable to me. Like, I'm guessing a lot of these plot lines already. I kind of knew the Queen would die. I kind of knew we would get, like, the son at the end. I knew a lot of these things would happen. Very few of these things surprised me.
Were my expectations too high for a movie where I walked in saying the premise is wrong? Like, maybe.
Perhaps.
I feel like it shouldn't have been that hard to impress me with this. And I liked it well enough to turn it green. Like, it's not bad. I know I'm mostly complaining. Like, I think the Neymar stuff is really, especially in comparing it as Kareem is doing to what we've had lately. Like, yeah, this is a better one of these lately.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like it tonally a lot.
Kareem, I know you've and one thing I want to say I really like about this, I have some issues with the way this movie looks. Maybe it was an issue with the projection, but when we get to a lot of, like, exterior nighttime shoots, especially when we cut to medium shots, it's very difficult to see what's happening.
I'm glad you said that. I had the same thing the first half of this movie where I'm like, can we do a day shot, please? Like,
because when it cuts to close-ups, it's fine. When it's those medium shot action scenes, there's, like, the fight with Okoye and, like, kind of the lead general of Talokan on that bridge. It was really difficult to kind of make out what was going on. But that being said, this is a very me kind of observation, so I'll be very brief with this. I really like, compared to the first movie, and I don't think this movie is as good as the first movie is, I like how you can tell Ryan Coogler directed this one more than the last one. I think it probably has to do with he was here from the project's inception. Initially, like Coogler was brought on after Ava DuVernay left the first movie.
I forgot about that.
And so I think they had a lot of previs already kind of ready to go with that. They kind of had the story already in place. And so he was probably looking at previs and going, okay, I need to make my movie look more in line with what is already here. But now he can it's still a Marvel movie. It's shot digitally. It's in that scope aspect ratio. It's in, it's very controlled, but, like, it still has a very shallow depth of field. There's a lot more handheld stuff. It's shot more in close up. Like, it has a lot more of Coogler's cinematic language. And I liked that a lot.
And I think that's director.
He's a very talented director. I like how he approaches stuff because a lot of his sensibilities are just not mine. I don't really like that shallow depth of field. Typically, it's not my preference. I don't typically like stuff that's shot largely in close up. But he's sort of like doing the Zack Snyder Man of Steel thing in a way that I like. Like, I like the way he uses that. He seems to really like what we associate as, like, gritty 1970s American cinema, like Taxi Driver, like Squirt. Like,
why do you think it works so well for Creed? Yeah.
Well, and Rocky is one of those movies that I'm sure he took a lot of inspiration from. But, I want to look more at his influences. I'm sure his influences speak loudly through him. And that's the kind of thing I like about when I watch movies, is I like seeing the history and the love of cinema that a director can bring to it. And I see a lot of reverence for his influences, and I want to, and that's what I like about this movie. So I want to give that out there. I liked the Ryan Coogler-iness.
I wish you'd said that earlier.
Movie.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I think that comes from Talokan too, which is why I wanted to stay there more.
I was going to say that. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was cool.
Which is impressive since it's all underwater.
You can make that better than Atlantis and Aquaman. Like,
yeah. What's so cool about that though is he's like bringing, like, because usually his like Fruitvale Station and Creed specifically, like they bring to mind like the urban gritty dramas of the 1970s, like Rocky. Obviously, Creed is a sequel to Rocky, but like. With that, I'm like, oh, he likes James Cameron, who's like the polar opposite, the hyper controlled, technologically advanced stuff. Like, I'm looking at Talokan, and I'm like, damn, he's going to the abyss. Yeah. That's awesome. Like, this is cool.
That's also a really difficult thing to decide how to shoot. So like maybe he had to go outside of some of his normal comfort zone to figure out a look for that.
But he keeps it in line with everything
It
else,
still
and that's
fits.
what's so cool about it.
It feels like it's part of the piece. You're absolutely right about that. I did not need that bit where because it just felt like standard Marvel like MCU humor, and like it didn't come from a character plays. When you know what I'm gonna say, when Namor is like, here's all these horrible things that'll happen to you if you come down to where we live, or you can just put a suit on, and I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
Well,
I was like, who let James Gunn in the room for this scene? Huh? Who did that?
My favorite line of the movie is he says something like, "If you try to go against us, we have more soldiers than you have blades of grass on this land." And I was like, wow, that's such a good line. I wish that was followed through more.
And that's why Shuri is a crazy person when she goes and fights him at the end. Spencer, your brother, 49 Super Chat, I read somewhere someone described this movie as a pile of things not yet assembled. I think I agree with that. Question mark. It's weird how little this movie affected me. I walked out feeling that way, where I was like, I'm like nothing with this movie. I keep hearing people move to tears. It was like super everybody's using the word emotional. I didn't have that.
I walked out thinking people were going to have what you're having, Cap, but I was kind of won over by that, if that makes any sense. I was like, people are not going to like this.
Well, and things different people differently. I don't know what that is.
My audio?
Are you guys hearing that? Wow.
What's up?
Is that on my end?
No
I'm not
idea.
hearing anything.
Hold on, I'm gonna try to figure it out. Sorry, guys. Okay, it's definitely not me.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my mic and
See if that does it. Connor, is it you? It's Connor.
it's Connor.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything. What is the noise you guys
It's
hearing?
like buzzing real loud, and you're gonna have to mute yourself again because it's gonna drive everybody insane. I'm sorry. You might want to try to switch to a different mic if that's possible.
Shock me.
Let me try to. Yeah, for a second I thought it was somehow my Black Panther claws, like being affected, like affecting the microphone. I was like, oh, get that away. There's feedback from the vibranium. I'm gonna read some more super chats here. And once again, if I missed yours from earlier, put it in the regular comments, please, and just write spoiler real large. Robert Wild, $5 super chat. We see past Black Panthers in the Ancestral Plane. Killmonger counts. I'm not saying Killmonger doesn't count. I'm saying I don't get why he comes to Shuri specifically when before it's always been your parents.
Well, I think they're just trying to be like, all right, what's in your heart? Because
retroactively.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's not what I got from the first movie. So if that's what it always was, again, make it clear because it felt very retroactive.
Yeah. And I knew Michael B. Jordan was going to come back in this one.
Yeah, well, and again, I like that scene. I like that choice. I just didn't buy it, and I wanted to. That's all I'm saying. It's nothing like as bad as like you know. I mean, it's not even bad, but even the conceit of it, it's not. I'm not saying it's like Jonathan Kent and BVS or anything.
Oh yeah, where he knows things.
Hey, how am I sounding, by the way?
Better.
Not buzzy.
Yeah. Great. Just wanted to quickly mention, my brother moved to LA a week ago. I love you, Spencer. Hope you're doing well. Glad you're able to watch it.
Yep, good luck in your new digs, sir.
Happy travels.
Mutale Super Chat. Kugler is making 2 Wakanda shows that will probably flesh out Wakanda more. I'd forgotten about that, yeah.
I thought that was canceled, so that'll flesh out a lot of things.
I think you might have been right that there was one that was in, that they were talking about making, like, maybe before Boseman died, I'm not sure, and then now they're doubling down on we're going to make those shows, but, you know, we did this movie first, I'm not sure.
Well, and the you know, the elephant in the room is like T'Challa is such a rich layered character with 80 years of like history of like he marries Storm, he does this, he has this rivalry with Neymar, he's on the Illuminati, he you know, and it's like to rob us of all of that just because, you know, reality happened. Is like, I can see the argument that Cap has and other people have where it's like, you know, you just introduced this guy.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything from Boseman because understand, guys, I love that guy as an actor. He was wonderful. You ever seen 41? I mean, he's
Yeah.
killer in that. But is 41 right?
I think it's 42.
42.
No, I'm pretty sure it's
Very-
41.
it's this-
42
we're
is the
all
answer to the
talking
question of
about
life, the
it.
universe, and everything. But
That's right.
it wasn't just the actor that that inspired people and that that kids wanted to be like and all of that. Like, he was instrumental in creating that character, yes, but the character is as important or more important than the man. And part of my issue with the movie is I feel like the film lost sight of that. I don't see T'Challa enough in the movie. Like what he's about, what he cares about. I don't mean to just repeat myself, but this was the big thing, Kareem, I was afraid of walking into the movie, that it would be a funeral for Chadwick Boseman and it would forget about T'Challa. That's what it did. I think.
Ultimately, I can see that point. I get where everyone's coming from. I ultimately can't defend that. I just felt a little bit more the other way, where it's like, okay, this not only is it a cultural impact, but it's an emotional one. This guy is applicable to, you know, how Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, Christopher Reeves is Superman. This guy was that. And not only is the cast and the world grieving this guy, but, you know, I could see what Connor's saying about it being more organic and kinetic. And it's like, okay, we're tremendously heartbroken now. Let's put that into our art. And I think if you're going to do that, it worked out in a positive way.
Okay, but
I think.
But don't you agree that at least we should have been talking more about the character and what he believed in?
Yeah.
I just don't see that in the movie.
I can see that.
I think we need to talk about more about what he believed in. I was a little disappointing to me that like the movie has to pause every 30 to 40 minutes to be like, we're sad that Chadwick died. And I'm like, I agree, that's like a sad thing, but like the movie is so steeped in plot that it's like,
yeah,
I don't feel like this would be a conversation you guys would be having considering how urgent things are supposed to be right now. And that's why I think like strip it down, strip the plot down, make this more of a singular protagonist story so that Shuri can have these.
And I think there should have been a character study of Shuri
Yeah.
through the lens of T'Challa's death. Not to rewrite the movie, but that's what it should have been.
But those are the things that are working at it. Shuri needs to have some really difficult moments where she's wrestling not just with the death of her brother, but the ways in which they didn't agree. Because she doesn't look at things the way he does. And she is in some ways, and the movie made me buy this, in some ways a little bit closer to Killmonger. So she needs to have these soul-searching moments where she's arguing with T'Challa posthumously. Where is that?
Yeah, and it should be juxtaposed with what Neymar wants. Like, maybe she aligns more with Neymar.
And it's ironic because those are the places where, Kareem, I feel like the movie itself is too long and decompressed, but the making of it is rushed. It reads like it needed another draft. Because all that stuff is there, it's not pulled out. So how hard did you rush this to get it together the way it is?
Well, I agree with Connor, and I think Connor said this, like, believing that he just had to rewrite this because, you know, Chadwick, and this was more or less what he was gonna be doing.
Maybe so.
Had Chadwick survived, or lived, I think it was supposed to be like this Namor kind of thing where obviously you're not going to have the grief and stuff like that, but I think what we wanted from this movie was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and since they have such a like rich history together in the comics, it would not surprise me if Namor was not an afterthought. Like if he was, you know, there from the beginning.
Well, and what's cool that I think, you know, what this movie kind of motions towards that, like, I don't know, do we have any more super chats?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put it.
Feel free to finish your point and then I'll read them.
Well, because it has to deal with Namor, and we keep teasing that we'll get to Namor. So what I like is that Namor is very similar to Killmonger, and what I like is that what he represents is almost like a. If I have regrets about how we dealt with Killmonger, this is like we, like we can do Killmonger again, but maybe this time it can work out. And I'm speaking more from the headspace of the characters who are like in charge of
Absolutely.
Wakanda. And I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. Sorry, we have super chat.
No, you're fine. Mutali, the first film was already kind of an ensemble. Yeah, but
So what?
but I thought, and I've argued with people about this. I think much less so than a lot of the ensemble pieces that profess to be singular character pieces that haven't worked out as well. People complain that he gets taken out of his own movie for a long stretch. Go time that, man. It's like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have
Not a lot.
And especially when the themes are so loud and just about what the legacy of Wakanda is.
Yeah, you could make the argument even, and I don't want to throw the other characters, the other supporting characters under the bus when I'm saying this, because I like a lot of them, but every character in the first movie, apart from Killmonger and T'Challa, are mouthpieces for different aspects of the argument that they're having, and like different perspectives and ways of looking at it. They all serve his story. It's real traditional storytelling in that way for a singular character thing, but it is a large ensemble because he's a king of a nation, and so
Yes.
so like I could even see a person and I don't have this, but I could even see a person coming in the other way and complaining that they're all two-dimensional characters that are just mouthpieces for these ideas to further T'Challa's story. And I've never heard anybody say that, but like I could see that argument too.
But and that's the thing is I know that like you could make the argument that there's a big ensemble in Black Panther, but even so, like I'm just looking at the movie that we got, and not to rewrite the movie, but it's very clear what the emotional core of this movie is, and it gets distracted, and I think the ensemble nature is what is distracting.
I don't think you lose T'Challa in the ensemble, and you do lose Shuri here. And when she finally
exactly
is up front, I think you've possibly caught a lot of audience members off guard. Oh, this movie's about her? Oh, okay. Especially because a lot of people walked into this disagreeing with. I don't want to say with just me, but with people that like me that thought, of course, Shuri is going to be Black Panther. If you've read any Black Panther comics, it would be really strange if the mantle didn't go to her. I saw a lot of people. I started second guessing myself with it, Kareem. I saw a lot of people going, no, it's gonna be Nakia. Of course, certainly, it's gonna be Nakia. Wow. And no, that's not what it is. But I think a lot of people.
Yeah.
are very likely to get all the way up to Shuri putting on the costume, going, "Oh wow, really? It's Shuri that gets the costume?" And if it was with her the whole time, you wouldn't have that.
No, I thought it was pretty evident in the trailer when her frame came.
The focus needs to be on her ideology from the beginning, like it was to T'Challa's, or his conflicted nature and uncertainty about which way to take his country. That's there from the beginning. Then there's all these arguments, for and against isolationism and expansionism, et cetera. This needed to have that also with Shuri's perspective, and it's too all over the place. It's too muddled. It's not there right away.
Ultimately, I agree. I think this should have been that character study with Shuri. But I also think you could have made the ensemble, because Wakanda is so rich and diverse with characters, you could have made that work, like done the Marvel, hey, it's an ensemble thing, and made it work, and just focus on the people, and do like, what do you call that X-Men movie? Days of Future Past, where you have everybody's ideology and this big issue and things like that, and just focus on that. I think that could have worked too.
Well, especially you expect that from that title. That's the other thing too. Yeah. Is like we put Wakanda in the title.
Like that title. By the way, I'm the only guy that doesn't like that title.
After
I know that I've seen the movie. I don't like.
After seeing the movie, I don't care for it either. I'm walking into this going, okay, Wakanda forever. It's going to be a big ensemble piece. And then you get to the end, and it's more about Shuri than it is anything. And I'm like, well, at the very least, that's confusing.
And we spend more time in Talokan than we do in Wakanda. We spend more time globetrotting, I feel, than we do in Wakanda.
We're definitely not there enough. That's another place where it feels like Thor: The Dark World. Senior Sticks, $2 super chat. Question: how does one mine vibranium?
with Riri Williams devices? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, because like vibranium is super hard. How do you like break it apart and like mold it?
Well, it's exactly the same question as how do you deal with adamantium, because it has to be like you have to make it super hot. You gotta liquefy it first. So I don't know. Maybe vibranium works the same way. Who knows?
Maybe.
It's a conceit. It's a chicken and the egg thing. Like, how did Wakanda in the first place mine vibranium if you need vibranium to mine vibranium? I don't know. Maybe you don't. Mutale, Mephisto is said to appear in the 5th and 6th episode of Ironheart. Mephisto is said to appear everywhere in the MCU right now. Also, why is this still coming up? Thank you, Mutale, for the information. We'll see if that happens this time.
Is Ironheart starting now?
No, I think it's sometime next year.
It comes out next year, I think. Also, I liked her dynamic, but yeah, I'm with you, Kareem. Why do we have specific like things that are going to happen in particular episodes? Also, I liked her dynamic with Shuri, like the science bros with Tony and Bruce. Yeah, I like that on paper. I didn't see any chemistry between those actors.
I kind of did too, a little bit. I wasn't as annoyed as you guys were.
I wasn't annoyed. Less annoyed and more just not impressed, and I thought the choice of actor was baffling. I had to keep being reminded that they were friends. Like in the end, it's like, oh, we're friends, and I fixed your car for you. Oh, that's right. I guess they're friends. Okay.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the a minute monologue of like Tony Stark inspired my life, and this is why I'm doing his suit, and it's not just like, hey, I'm a character in the comics that has an Iron Man motif.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Okay, I think we're out of super chats now unless we missed any, and I'm scrolling down now to see if anybody wrote spoiler in huge letters. Super chat. Robert Wild, super chat. I thought Shuri's faith and grief were maturely handled. I really appreciated that aspect of the movie. Yeah, me too, except for just how easy getting over the revenge thing was at the end. I thought that was obligatory and really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, just kind of standard. I've seen it before. It was like kind of a light switch thing. It was very much like the I've got my gun against my greatest enemy, and like I've killed all these other people, but I'm not gonna kill him because that's how I redeem myself at the end. She didn't kill a bunch of people, but I mean she sort of did, just in going let's go attack these people. It's a really bad idea, but I'm angry, so let's do that.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was way too easy, and also, not to mention that the Avengers are mostly like these soldiers and operatives and spies and things like that, that it's okay to kill people. They're not like DC where it's like Batman has a no-kill rule and stuff like that. Like, we don't give it a second thought. These people are enemies. You're the ruler of a nation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't buy that she doesn't like kill. I thought they were going to do something where it's like, I'm not going to kill you because it's going to deify you, and it's going to be an eternal war, like M'Baku said, where it's never going to stop. So I was waiting for her to do it not as a strategic move, where it's like, I want to kill you, but I don't want to do this for my people.
Yeah, I'm being selfish right now. I'm not thinking about everybody that I'm responsible for. And keep in mind, she's essentially the queen right now.
Yeah, that would make way more sense to me.
The devil's advocate argument, and I don't agree with this. I'm with you, Kareem, but I guess the argument that somebody could throw at you is, but the issue is like motivation. So it's not is killing wrong. It's she's doing it for the wrong reasons. So, but it's still too easy.
Yeah. Like I said, I think they just wanted to do the Civil War moment of like, okay, she's the new Black Panther. We've got to establish a moral sort of, level or whatever with this character moving forward, so you know where she's at.
Yeah, and I would have been cool with the Civil War callback scene more if, like I keep saying, this was more of a singular protagonist thing if we're with her and like really understand her revenge path more. As is, I feel like it's a little too condensed to the third act. And as is that moment where she says, "I'm done letting it consume me," it felt once again like the MCU playing its greatest hits. And I am tired of that.
I can't believe I didn't think of that.
And I mean, first of all, it came after her like coming out of a spear that has no blood on it, which what? But
Dude,
also,
she gets stabbed, and I'm like, okay, obviously we're not gonna kill her off, but like,
explain to me that.
Now we've got this sense of urgency, and then it's like she never got stabbed. Immediately after that, it's like she just walks away and nothing happened, and I was like, the MCU used to be too good for this. Like, I think, I don't know.
The spear was clean. It was in her body. How is there no blood on it?
You know what? You know what makes that even worse?
You don't know how the heart-shaped herb works.
Yeah, she's a fish.
You know what?
Okay.
You know what makes that even worse? The disease
She
that
doesn't have
T'Challa
blood now.
dies from.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry, Kareem, I missed it. I missed it. What'd you say?
It makes it even worse the disease that T'Challa died from.
Yeah.
Like, you can get impaled through your body, but God forbid, you know, I'm not trying to mock that, but I was gonna say something about the Civil War thing, but anyways, you guys.
Oh no, but like I feel like we keep replaying the MCU's greatest hits. We were kind of doing it like in Infinity War, when it's like, wait a minute, you killed Gamora. I'm like, okay, Russo, so you guys are just playing the Bucky killed my parents scene for a dramatic effect, and it's like, oh, it's like poetry, it rhymes. But like when it came to this, and it's like just calling back to that, like I'm getting very, very tired of. We've done it a lot in Phase 4, where we just kind of go back to the big moments from the MCU and call it back, and people can go, well, thematically, it's like a meta narrative about how generations are now being inspired by it. It's like, yeah, okay, but you know, I don't care.
You can read it too.
You're just ripping yourself off.
But at the end of the day, are they doing it because they're being thoughtful about it thematically, or is it kind of lazy writing and to get a rise out of the audience and to try to manipulate that kind of feeling? Because more often, that's what it feels like to me.
And it's not like, I would, like I said, I would be won over by it if this was more of a singular protagonist piece, if we're with Shuri throughout more of this. I think
also, she wasn't there. She shouldn't have the exact same line he had.
But like in art, I'm okay with that, like sort of reprise. If she didn't know he said that, maybe she's more like her brother than she is Killmonger, and we reflect that through dialogue. Like I'm okay with that. It's
absolutely,
just like,
but the movie's not smart enough for that.
Yeah.
You guys have the same thing where she's not a fighter like she is in the comics. So it's like, yeah, you can have the strength and you can keep up with Neymar.
How you bouncing around every? You haven't trained for this.
Yeah, it's like, how are you going to be the protector if you're a lab geek? Like,
it's the Arrowverse problem, where after a certain season, anybody can just shoot arrows.
the biggest dilemma of T'Challa's character, I keep mentioning the comics, is Wakanda wants him to be a politician and a king, but he's a warrior at heart. So, how are you going to play that with Shuri?
She's a scientist at heart. We don't. By the way, it became unintentionally funny the sheer number of times Namor said he was going to kill the scientist. There was a point after I was actually laughing out loud every time he said the scientist.
So I had this weird thing where I thought this movie was going to do a Hail Mary at the end, where they're going to be like, the scientist wasn't Riri Williams, it was Victor Von Doom. Dun dun dun. And he was like engineering everything, and I was like, I'm so glad they didn't do that.
And that would be them going, yeah, this character we're going to make a whole TV show out of isn't that great anyway. The great and powerful Don says, at what point can we say the MCU isn't that great anymore? I mean, I'll say it.
When it stops making money, it's.
We can still say it. Like, it's not that great right now. I mean, there's things I'm liking here and there, but nope. I mean, I'm with you. It's not that great right now.
Look, I don't think the MCU has ever. Sorry, was that Kareem?
Go ahead, Connor.
I was just gonna say, I've never thought the MCU was that great. Like, it was impressive. It's a lot less impressive right now.
Okay, that's fair.
I thought the MCU had a charm because it was a mutant, no pun intended. Like, it never happened before, and we were so enamored with it that it happened so, purely. But I think it's run its course, and we can all talk about that all the time, and the dip of quality and just the laziness. But just money-wise, it's never been as popular. All of our kids, are gonna just live with this thing. And
we didn't mention this earlier. This is film 30.
wow,
Project 39.
Yeah,
Too.
it's the 30th.
Yeah, and this is the end of Phase 4 officially. So which is every 3 phases are a saga. So the first 3 sagas are the Infinity Saga, and the next 3 phases are the Multiverse Saga. So this is the end of Phase 4, and they're gonna do 5 and 6.
And then when they get to 3 more after that, it'll be the Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe saga. Mutale, Mephisto is said to appear. Oh wait, we already talked about that.
Yes.
Hold on, let me see if we have any more actual super chats. Oh, was it 42? I guess it was 42. Well, that's weird. That's also.
And I've never seen it.
Oh, you should though. It's really good.
I will be. I will be watching it pretty soon.
Okay,
I thought you were talking about 3 bridges or 4 bridges or whatever.
I've never seen that. We're already at almost 2.5 hours. Oh, and I can hear myself in my headphones now.
I can't too.
I can't. I mean, I can hear you, but I can't hear you in your headphones.
It seems okay now. Omari Daniel says, "Cap, don't give them ideas." Okay, I'll refrain. Did you guys have more things you wanted to say about Neymar?
Yes.
We'll do it up.
Well, Kareem, it's your favorite part of the movie. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Neymar? Or?
I touched on it before. I really love that we're going for I think it's called Mesoamerican. Forgive me if it's wrong. But that kind of indigenous background that's not normally with the character. Neymar, I know Connor loves him in the comics. He's famously unlikable and just a giant egotistical, jerk. And he's given a lot of dimensions in modern day, especially with Jonathan Hickman's Avengers run and things like that. And T'Challa and him have a just amazing rivalry. But I thought with this, he wasn't, he was obviously more likable, and I could see why these people viewed him as a god and as a father. He kept saying to his people that my child, you know what I mean? Like almost like Thanos was, but more in a loving way. He almost came off to me like an artist, which was weird. Like he was in this room at the end where he was just doing like stuff on the wall, and I was like, that's a really interesting take. So I think all that performance stuff really works with the character. I was questioning his motivations of like, hey, join me, I'm going to kill you and then kill the whole world. Like, dude, like you're a king of like half a millennium, right? Like just be more strategic in that. But yeah, I thought the world in 10 minutes, Ryan Coogler did what,
How else is anything going to explode, Kareem?
in 10 minutes, I liked it Talokan way better than Aquaman. And Atlantis and stuff. And I liked Aquaman, but yeah, I just thought it was a lot more interesting. And I love, I don't know how to say their name, like the Talokan, the Talokan people. I love their design and just, they were very imposing and I felt uncomfortable when they were on screen. And just like the score and things like that and them calling people into the ocean, I thought that was all perfect. And I wanted that film to be like half of this film. I wanted that to be like it really feel like Talokan versus Wakanda.
Yeah, I'm gonna predict that that's the standout, and that if they wanted to make a Namor movie after this, that probably performs okay. Also, people jumping off of whales is cool. That never got old. When they came out of the water, I was like, yeah, and like they did the crazy over-the-top comic book stuff that Aquaman did, but then they also like reeled it in a little bit with characters that acted like human beings, sort of.
Well, I thought it was really cool how they like incorporate like myths, like the whole siren song gets like kind of brought up with them. I like how the traditional pronunciation of Namor is just Namor with a Wakandan accent. That's cool. I don't know. I really liked how they straight up do the green trunks.
Yeah.
He is just strutting around in those things.
I
Like,
was shocked that I finally liked an origin for a name like that, because it was thoughtful, it was thought out, and it came from his character motivation, and it came from traditional Neymar character motivation. They said no more means no love for the surface world and stuff, and I'm like, well, that's perfect. Like, that's that character. That's awesome. That's not what it was in the comics. It was just a name they made up, but like, that's perfect.
Neymar, the Submariner. Do something with it.
I remember when I created the Submariner.
But okay, I really hope.
Real quick, don't you think that that's probably where going with the like native Spanish idea came from in the first place? They probably looked at that name and went, what can we do with that? And then I wonder if that all comes from just Neymar. Yeah, sure. We'll make him a Spanish guy. Like, I wonder if that's what they did.
Well, there's also a lot of, like, you know, you can talk about underrepresentation of Africa in media, but there's also a significant lack of exposure to, like, South American,
I'm sure that's what
you know, culture and like, yeah, I'm like, but I'm sure you're right. Maybe they were just like, his name's Neymar. What can we do here? And I like that a lot.
I never picked up on that. Red Davis says it's just Roman backwards in the comics.
Oh, that's funny.
Neymar is Roman. I didn't know that.
But I hope one of the Fantastic Four movies can just be a feature film adaptation of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's Fantastic Four issue 6. Have you guys ever read that?
Is that the one with T'Challa?
No. It's Doctor Doom gets Namor and the Fantastic Four into the Baxter Building. Then he picks it up and is gonna throw it into the sun. I got all of he's in his spaceship. He's got his magnet spaceship. He tricks Namor into getting a super magnet at the bottom of the Baxter Building, waits for everyone to go home from work, and then he uses a magnet to lift the Baxter Building up, and he's like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna throw you guys into the sun. And so they have to, like, run across, like, asteroids to get to his spaceship, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, they're don't get your hopes up. They're not gonna do that, but
no, I know they will.
That'd be great.
Real quick, I think the decision to make Namor the Spanish kind of thing comes from, like, indigenous roots.
Yeah.
Because they still want to do that colonization kind of theme that Killmonger had and stuff like that. So they're doing the African cultures and then the indigenous cultures and things like that. But, like, on a more, like, funny note, I kept being distracted. I was like, why is Elaine from Seinfeld in this?
So, can I do it too? So she is a pre-established character from the Disney Plus shows that starts with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but was supposed to appear first in a movie that came out after that, but was supposed to come out before that. And I can't remember which movie it was, Connor.
Black Widow.
Is it Black Widow? Okay. Well, no, that did come out before. Whatever.
No, it came out after.
Did it?
Yeah, it was. That was supposed to be the first thing in Phase 4.
Okay, I am remembering that right then. Yeah. Yeah, she's awful, and the whole thing with her. Why did she, like? I like the Ross character fine. Why did we have to throw him under the bus by saying he married that woman? Come on now. I hate that.
Well, he's a joke in the comics a lot, and I think they're trying
That's
to
true.
inject that into that, but it doesn't work given the first movie.
He wasn't a joke in the first movie. They made him really endearing. Like, one of the coolest things to me in that movie is how you're safely piloting a drone, and so there's nothing at stake. Oh wait, they're attacking where you are while you're flying the drone. That was so good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm still going to be here. I just got to move my laptop somewhere else, so I'll be listening.
We're going to have to wrap up in 5 minutes because I've got someplace I've got to go drive to here in just a few minutes. But we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Robert, while they're divorced at least. Yeah, I know, but you ever have that, Kareem, where, like, you question a person just based on people they've married? Like, I don't know about you now that I know that you married that person.
I think they were just trying to add that MCU good old humor.
Wasn't it hilarious too?
Yeah.
Kareem, somebody wants to know what the sign behind you says.
Oh, dream, imagine, wish, create, inspire. I've had this since college. I like it.
Yeah, it's a good poster. By our powers combined, I'm Captain Planet. Mutale, Kareem, aren't most superhero films predictable though? Not just Marvel and comics have multiple issues to explore stuff, and movies only have 2 hours. Yeah, but with respect, I've always really resisted that argument. I've seen that every time I've ever called a superhero movie predictable, or not every time, but there's often somebody in the comments that pops in and goes, it's unfair to say a superhero movie is predictable. Of course it's predictable because of the kind of genre we're in. Okay, once again, just like with the here's why I can complain about kids thing. Here's why I can complain when a superhero movie is unpredictable, because I've seen the ones that aren't, and they elevate. You know, they go beyond. I resist. Well, you've only got 2 hours to get it done, so it has to be a formula. No, and I know I go to this too much, but remember Winter Soldier? Did anybody call that the Shield had been infiltrated by Hydra the whole time? Nobody I know. Everybody was blindsided by that. Can I not praise that for being? Because I guess I can't praise that for being unpredictable. If I also have to say, well, superhero movies are predictable, so that's a mulligan. It's not a mulligan, guys. You could be better than that. We've seen it done.
I was mainly referring to
Dark Knight's not predictable.
Yeah, I was mainly referring to the plot points of, like, you know, they're Black Panther 2018 is a very basic movie with so much interesting stuff to say on top. And I could see why people were kind of underwhelmed by that weren't gripped by the big thematic stuff. I think this movie is the same way, where it's like, I can kind of tell the queen is going to die. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. Overall, superhero movies, yeah, like that's just the point of movies, is like, you're not even thinking about what's going to happen because you're so wrapped up in the drama, and it's just compelling. But I don't think all superhero movies. I think a lot of the Marvel movies have this, objectively have this assembly line kind of thing where it's like, you know, they're just making these things and putting them out. So I think it's predictable in that
because they're plugging in for a formula. They don't have to be done that way. But it's harder to make so many of them if they're not done in that kind of machine empire. Yes.
And it wasn't like this before. Early MCU wasn't like this, right? Like Winter Soldier was a political thriller. Black Panther was a tribal film. Like, they were making different types of films.
Yeah.
And they seem to have stopped that in some respects.
Well, and speaking for myself, and this is just as the kind of, I don't know, viewer, reader, whatever I am, predictability for myself is rarely a complaint. But I think when you are not engaged, predictability does become a complaint.
Absolutely.
And so, or in the case of something like comedy or a mystery where unpredictability is built into the nature of the appeal of a genre, then it becomes a complaint if you can just kind of piece it all together. But hey, I liked Death on the Nile, and I was able to piece that together in 5 seconds, but I was still wrapped up in kind of the little character stuff going on in the margins of the mystery.
Sometimes it's fun when you call stuff too, because you're like, "Oh, look at me, aren't I smart? I figured that out."
Yeah,
and that can be satisfying. By the way, none of my big complaints with this movie were that it's predictable. Like,
and that wasn't really any of my complaints either. But it's like, okay, I think some of the visual effects in this movie really friggin' bad. But
I was making fun of the heart-shaped herb thing because I could tell where that was going, but it's not a huge issue. I don't like retroactively. I mean, like, now that I've seen it, I don't like in the moment how standard and easy Shuri getting over her revenge thing is, but that's not predictable so much as just trope.
Yeah. I had 2 things to say about Elaine. So, one, or I guess the CIA subplot that just gets dropped. So, one, I'm always going to have love for a Red Hot Chili Peppers needle drop. Always there for, and it's from my favorite album of theirs. By the way, love that album. Anyways, but the other thing is, yes, Elaine from Seinfeld is like the worst character that's ever been in a movie ever. I hate her. When she showed up in Falcon the Winter Soldier, I was like, am I getting punked right now? No.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And then like she showed up in like Black Widow in the post credits, and I was like, no.
Yeah, when we first see
no.
her, she shows up to recruit U.S. agent.
U.S. agent, yeah.
So we're doing Thunderbolts with her then.
Yes.
And she'll be in that, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So she's the Nick Fury of Thunderbolts. She's Amanda Waller, you guys.
Yep. Yep. Well, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. This appearance, Kareem, is by a significant margin her best appearance. So let that inspire, like significantly.
So let that sink in.
Anyways, yeah. When she showed up, I audibly like sighed an expletive in the theater. I was like, no, I don't want this in my movie. I hate her.
I had read that she was, I was keeping away from stuff, but somehow I knew she was in that, so I was bracing myself for it. But I was not prepared for she used to be married to this character I like. God frickin'. Is he related to Thunderbolt Ross? Why are they both called Ross? I guess because he was Ross in the comics.
Oh. I really hope they can just have a last name and not connect them. That'd be great.
Watch him be like, "Oh yes, my father, Harrison Ford."
Okay, this is the last Dark Knight Rises tonight. Real quick, a joke I always had was the scene where Bruce and Talia are in Wayne Manor. And then they look at Rachel on a frame. I always wanted it to be Katie Holmes. I always wanted her to be like, "Who's that?"
Dude, have we never talked about this? Because I have a whole thing with that too. I think I might have even mentioned in the rewind. I always wanted it to be a second recasting. Because she's a different person in both of those movies. I think it'd be really funny if you look over to this completely other woman in a picture frame. We don't know who it is either. He goes, "Oh, that's Rachel."
That's really
It'd
funny.
be good if it was Katie Holmes too, though. It's like, this is how Bruce remembers her.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of who's the brunette act. It's Jennifer Connelly. We get Jennifer Connelly for a picture. There we go.
Any other final thoughts that you guys have got to throw out before we finish? Because I have got to rush off.
I had something, but I forgot. So
I'm sorry.
I think this is one of the best kind of things you can do when it comes to tragedy and grief, and when you want to do the creative thing of, taking what really happened and resonating with people who were resonated by Chadwick Boseman and his legacy and things like that. Having said that, there's a ton of flaws, and whether you're captured by that or not, it will be dependent on whether you enjoy this movie. This is significantly, less potent and with less agency than the first one, and I think a lot less impactful. But I enjoyed, a lot of the performances, and I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I'm more intrigued of what they're going to do, going forward. But this definitely, I don't want to sound like a baby with like, where's my toys and stuff, but it definitely does make you feel like
they're right here.
I had T'Challa, and what's going to happen now? I kind of feel cheated by that, with respect to Chadwick Boseman and his legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the one last note I did want to mention is that the way in which the ensemble plot sort of hinders what I felt like was the story that we're telling comes down in the climax. I know this was the case in the first movie. This is the case with every Marvel thing now. They're under choreographed. The action is not great. It's good enough. But like, I felt like there was some legitimate drama going down between Shuri and Namor, and I wanted to see that fight. We see about an eighth of it. We keep cutting away to stuff that I'm so much less interested in, so much less invested in. I'm much less invested in that than I was in the stuff going down in Wakanda in the first movie. And we keep doing this. In Moon Knight can punch 3 people, then we cut away to a sidekick punching somebody, then we cut away. We just, look, intercutting.
Are
the
you
parallel-
an Egyptian superhero? Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I
I
am
am.
an Egyptian superhero. But like, I get like, look at. I was just watching M from 31 last night. I was just, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. Parallel editing is a thing I like. It's not the end all be all tool to use. I get it. I know that it makes things feel sprawling and epic. The actual epic drama was going down with Shuri. That's her fight. That's what we're invested in. I'm sick and tired. Like when we get to Hellboy 2, that has a pretty involved supporting cast. Some would argue Hellboy gets lost at the beginning of that movie. But at the end, it's Hellboy fighting that elf guy, and it's packed with drama, and it's wonderful. I want more of that in my superhero movies. Anyways, that's the last thing I wanted to say. But overall, movie's fine. It's adequate. Probably the best thing that Marvel's put out this year. Probably the second best, I think, Marvel movie of Phase 4, but have very kind of complicated feelings about it as a movie. But overall, I do think it's good enough.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to be really sarcastic and go, it's probably, I don't know, I think it's the second best Black Panther movie. I can't.
That would have been great if I did that, right?
I thought that's where you're going. It probably is, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, the last thing I'll say, Cap,
real
quick, is I have the, and I'm like franchise hopping. Forgive me, guys.
Is it a true movie?
I have the Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi thing where it's like, wow,
That's
he's
a
awesome in
three.
this. I would love to see what happens next, and I can't, and I want T'Challa. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Ultimately, I was won over by this, but I still have that like emptiness in it. That's unfortunate, and I agree with Connor. And the last thing I'll say is like I think you can do the Shuri character study thing, and you can also have the texture of how it affects Wakanda, like the people and stuff like that. And as far as like the stakes are rising, people are drowning or whatever, people are dying, and you can get like insights into Shuri going to the people of Wakanda, and you can have that kind of political intrigue. And I think that's what this should have been. And it seems like this is chapter 1 of a long chapter story where they hopefully will get that. Somebody mentioned they're going to have Disney Plus shows and things like that. So I'm sure they'll go to that where maybe there'll be the military perspective or another tribe perspective, but I was missing that.
Well, I obviously liked this the least of the three of us, and I don't think it's the best of this phase. I think adequate is exactly the right word, Connor. I think that's my review as well. But the things that you guys didn't like, I think I liked less than you did, and then there's other things that I had too. So I don't know. I had a tough time with this one. And again, walking out of the theater, it wasn't like, oh God, here's all these things I didn't like. It was, I don't know, and as we're talking, I found myself solidifying opinions that I had not solidified earlier. I'm hoping a second viewing, I'll appreciate things in this movie better. I'm also hoping I'm wrong about some things that I wasn't caring for, because I don't mind being wrong on camera, especially right after I saw. I think hopefully some of my issues are non-issues, and a second viewing I'll go, wait a minute, no, this is better than I thought it was. But it's okay. I'm glad the Neymar stuff was as fun and bombastic and off the page as it was. I'm glad there was some fun to be had with this, and it wasn't just a funeral. That's nice. But the parts where it is a funeral, I wanted it to be a funeral for the character as much as the actor, and I didn't feel like I got that. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I hope you had a good time with us, and we had 3 very different perspectives, which was wonderful, and I don't line it up that way on purpose. We're like, okay, I need this guy who has these thoughts, and I need this guy who has these thoughts, and I need like a moron that no one will agree with because he said stupid things that are completely unfounded. I don't come in like that, but we happen to have 3 very different takes on this, and it made for a really wonderful discussion. Kareem, as always, come back anytime, and I wish we had you more often, and thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, it's always a pleasure to be here. Glad to be with Connor and you, as always.
It was a lot of fun. And Robert Wild is telling me that I need to stop stabbing myself with vibranium, but what he doesn't know is that I took the heart-shaped herb, so I'm immune to anything, and I don't bleed anymore. So no worries. And the new heart-shaped herb too, so it's even better I guess. Anyway.
We can rule internal bleeding off of the cause of death for T'Challa.
Everybody, thanks again for being here. We'll see you again real soon. I'm going to come back tomorrow night. Usually I do a superhero rewind Monday night, but I'm going to do a watch party for Mask of the Phantasm. Of course, we have a couple of commentaries for that already, but I thought that would be the thing to do after Kevin Conroy passed, and I might just be alone on that. But if you want to pop in and watch it with me while I'm talking over it and just talking about Kevin Conroy and the film, pop on in with me. It's going to be real low-key, just us watching the film together. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan. We had Kareem Roberts.
Good night, everybody.
Und Connor Nielsen.
Salutations.
Later, buddy.